Alright, good morning everybody. We have 120 something characters to talk about, so let's go ahead and get started. Mixed up the tier list a little bit here. We no longer have an unrivaled tier. It's kind of condensed into meta defining teams, teams that compete with the meta, and then everything else. But let's go ahead and start with a treat. Let's start with the strongest center in Path to Nowhere. The number one strongest. Any guesses? Any guesses? It's LL. LL is ridiculous. She is the tippy top of the meta. She is used on almost every single meta-defining team in the game. There's like 5 centers who don't care about her, and every single other center wants LL on their team as like the premier support. What ends up happening is that LL both provides SP and skill damage. That is LL's one caveat, is that she is not used on normal attack teams. If you're using like Bianca or Summer, then you're not going to see LL being used because those teams do normal attack damage and they don't care about LL's buff. But every single other team really wants LL. Her buff is permanent, so you don't have to worry about like timing it on story stages. You just put Manti on somebody and it's there for the rest of the stage. She gives SP, she gives damage. Just the SP alone is enough for LL to be in this tippy top of the meta tier. She's just so insanely powerful, and the fact that she applies damage on top of it just makes her genuinely absurd. This character she's just getting stronger and stronger as more centers get released. She is absolutely insane, and I think it's going to be near impossible to uproot LL unless they just print another center that says LL but she gives even more damage. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay. Now, the way that this tier list is going to work is I'm going to do one S rank and then one A rank, or B rank. So let's go ahead and grab an A rank. Let's go ahead and grab Hella. We have a chance to talk about Hella now that we have the Reforges. We're going to talk about Reforged Hella. And Reforged Hella is if you're a fan category. Reforged Hella didn't really do anything to help Hella. Hella is still just like this body that doesn't die and can kind of do damage if she really wants to. But I don't know, she doesn't do anything special. She just sits there and doesn't die. And if you want to bring her to a story stage, if you want to bring her to like a mania training or something, like sure you can do it. Like she's not going to be a detriment to your team. She's just not going to do anything. She doesn't provide core break, she doesn't provide weight clear, she doesn't do insane boss damage, like all the things that make other characters good. Hella doesn't have any of that. She just has this like unkillable body that has like sustained DPS if you really want her to. But Hella or Reforged Hella, it's the same character. If you're a fan category, she's a B rank. What more do you want from her? Okay, next up, Serpent. The Serpent used to be the strongest magical damage character in the game. When she first released, she was just like utterly insane. You would animation cancel her like crazy, and her spin would kill literally everything. It was absurd just how good Serpent was. The years have not been kind to Serpent. Serpent has been struggling more and more, and one of the big reasons why she struggles is that she's this normal attack damage and skill damage hybrid. To do her spin, she has to launch a series of normal attacks, and she has all this like attack speed bonus stuff. So like she has this build like being like, oh, build me with a normal attack team. But all of her damage comes in the form of skill damage. We're talking about her ultimate, we're talking about her spin, and we're talking about her ECB. All of which are skill damage. So it's very hard to like support Serpents because you have to build for both normal attacks and for skill damage, and that's harder to do than people realize. And then on top of that, all of Serpent's damage is damage over time. To spin, you have to attack 6 times, which takes a second or two. Her ECB does all of its damage over like this prolonged duration. And it's very difficult to do the damage that Serpent needs to do when you need to do it. And she ends up being relegated to like wave clear only. And in those kind of scenarios, she's worth raising. She is worth bringing to story stages. She is worth bringing to like ROTD. But in any situation where like she needs to do damage to a singular target, she's not going to be worth it. She's just too slow and too specialized at hitting people in like a ring around her. And I I think the worst part about it is that like she can't even spam her ults like other characters of her caliber can. Like you can give them multiple empowers, click the ults, and you'll do like big damage if you spam the ult a few times. You're not going to see that big damage on Serpent because so much of her power is locked behind the spin in her ECB, and those are just too slow. And it's good enough for wave content, but too slow anywhere else. Okay, next A rank. Let's go ahead and grab Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, Mr. Fox. Mr. Fox is if you're a fan category. Mr. Fox does one thing. He provides stun immunity to your team. If you are fighting a boss that's going to stun your entire team, or if you're fighting something else that's going to like that you just really hate the stun, Mr. Fox is an option. There are better options. We're going to talk about her next. More is a better option. Is a better version of Mr. Fox. But if you have no other option and you like Mr. Fox and you really want to use Mr. Fox and there is going to be a boss that's going to stun you, then you can bring Mr. Fox to prevent that one stun. But no, that's all he's doing. He's just preventing that stun. That one-time stun, that's all he does. He does literally nothing else. But it's enough to keep him if you're a fan category. He has a use and he does fulfill his own role of providing an immunity to a stun. Okay, next up is Moore. Moore also provides immunity to stuns. And she also provides a lot of damage. She, at ECB3, she provides a 40% physical damage boost to most of her team. It requires some very specific positioning, and it's only physical, and it requires her ECB3. And a lot of people will say that Moore should be in the tippy top of the meta tier because she is best in slot on so many of these physical teams. I disagree with that evaluation. I think Moore should be in this great power tier. And the reason why I say that, Moore needs her ECB3. She needs to be on a physical damage team. She has like really, to me, really awkward positioning requirements. She has positioning requirements, but to me those are very awkward positioning requirements. And when you do all of that, she still needs to be like level 80 or 90 or 85, or is like she needs to be highly leveled. Because what ends up happening is that everything that she does is based around her shields. And if her shields are based around her max HP. And if her shields get broken, then she does literally nothing. And my level 70 Moore gets her shields broken all the time. But then I watch videos of like level 90 Moores like popping off because their shields never break. And what ends up happening is that Moore can get stat checked. If your shields maintain and you have that ECB3 and like you're just protecting your entire team while giving them insane damage boosts, Moore's incredible and should absolutely be in this tippy top of the meta tier for physical teams only. But if you don't have Moore invested in that heavily, if your Moore is like level 70, ECB1, or something else equally casual, then Moore gets stat checked and it's very difficult to make use of her. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like I still use Moore as like my supportive choice in many BFL clears, specifically when I need to dodge stuns and stuff of that nature. But I don't know, there's just like too many requirements to get Moore to her maximum power, and I find her very awkward to use, and again, easily punished when it comes to like stat checks. So don't be surprised if like you bring Moore and like, oh, this is gonna be so amazing, the tier list told me that she was amazing, and then her shield gets broken and you have no idea what to do. So it happens. Okay, next up, let's talk about EMP. EMP, she's a B rank. I mean, she's in the if you're a fan category. There's no way around that. She's very good when players first start playing the game because she has this very long range. She has a core break, and she actually has pretty considerable damage on that core break early on. Later on, she stops one-shotting people with her ultimate, and her long range doesn't necessarily equate to like high DPS. Like, yes, she has the long range, she can hit whoever she wants to, but she doesn't really have anything that like gives her attack speed or like does more damage when she normal attacks people. Like she's another one of these normal attacks skill damage hybrids that just does not scale well into the late game. You can bring her if you want to. She has a core break. She's, you know, she has like chip damage with her normal attacks, and she's good enough to like bring into story and stuff. But later on, there's nothing that EMP does that really makes her stand out against her competition, and she is relegated to if you're a fan category. Again, like, she does her job. I'm not disputing that. She just doesn't do enough to be above if you're a fan. Okay, moving on to Summer. Summer recently got her reforged. So we are talking about Reforged Summer. If we were talking about regular summer is down here. Okay, don't use regular summer. Reforged Summer is in this weird spot right now, where she does not have a dedicated team. She has a lot of really good supports. If you want to use Reforged Summer, use Lady Pearl, use Eve, and use Jelena. All three of those like massively buff Summer's damage and ends up doing really well. But what ends up happening is that even with those best partners, Summer teams really struggle with core break. Summer struggles with core break. Summer struggles with core break. Jelena struggles with core break. Eve struggles with core break, and Lady Pearl can do some core breaking against the boss. But the team is just so low on core breaking, and it's so difficult to like fill it out with the correct pieces to like complete it as a dedicated team. And right now it's just a bunch of characters that do well together. And if this was the old tier list, I would put Summer in unrivaled power. She'd be somewhere up there, like competing with Yao or something in that tier list. In this current tier list, there is no unrivaled category. You're either like a meta-defining team, or you're like used on multiple meta-defining teams, usually as a support. And Summer is not on a meta-defining team, and she's not good enough to be at the tippy top. So instead, I'm putting her in great power. Summer absolutely has the damage that she needs. As soon as you turn her ult on, she starts critting everything, and it's insane damage. It really is like you are going to melt targets. But she has problems. The first problem is that she doesn't have the dedicated team. The second problem is that all of her damage is entirely single target. And what ends up happening is that if there's any waves that walk in front of Summer, Summer has to choose between hitting the waves or hitting the boss. And to hit the boss, you have to like do really awkward positional plays to like force Summer to only look at the boss and not have any other waves or overlap with her range. It becomes really awkward. And like if we're talking about someone like, I'm going to choose somebody random like Vanilla. Vanilla does all of her damage when she hits the waves. She's also hitting the boss. Okay, so she's hitting the waves and the boss at the same time. Summer has to choose waves or boss. And in those scenarios, she ends up cutting her damage in half. Right, like she spends half her time shooting the wave, she spends half her time shooting the boss, her damage is halved. Whereas Vanilla just hits everything. So even with Summer's like insane damage, and even with her best partners are not helping her with wave clear at all. So you have to fill out the last two slots with wave clearing core breakers that can also tank, and it's just a really awkward team to put on, and you end up like just splashing a Summer in for damage. So she's good, but she has a lot of weaknesses that keeps her in check. I would say that she's great power. Again, if this was the old tier list, she would be unrivaled top power, just like a standalone DPS character. But as it is right now, great power, good character, but she has her very clear defined weaknesses. Okay, up next, let's take a look at... Oh boy, Dr. Iron. Dr. Iron is awful. She core breaks. That's it. Dr. Iron does have some electrocute stuff, but electrocution is not a fully... It's like a half-realized mechanic. Like, it exists in Path to Nowhere, but it doesn't do anything. And there's no, like, electrocute team. Like, even if you have Donald, there's no electrocute team. Nobody's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna pick Lamia because it's gonna proc electrocution. Like, nobody's doing that. Electrocution's a very niche thing that doesn't matter. And if we ignore all of Dr. Iron's electrocute stuff, she is a core breaker, and she's not a good one. So she does fulfill her role. She's not down here because like her role is a core breaker, and she does break cores. So like she does something, but she's worse than Hella. And if you're worse than Hella, then you're pretty bad. Like anything below Hella, I would consider like don't use these characters. These are bad characters. But again, Dr. Iron might be bad, but she still fulfills her own role. She's still a core breaker. If you want to use her, if you like absolutely have to use Dr. Iron, sure. She breaks a core. She's not a detriment to your team. She just doesn't do anything. Speaking of detriments to your team, Pilgia still struggles. There's no getting around it. Pilgia is... Her kit is to be this wave clear raid boss, but she only gets that wave clear raid boss status after the waves have already been cleared. Which is just the strangest design decision I've ever seen from any game ever. So she needs to like enter her corrupted state, but to enter her corrupted state she has to kill 20 enemies. And if you've killed 20 enemies without her corrupted state, then you don't need her corrupted state. So it's just, there's no reason to ever bring her for that reason. Now the places where Pylgia does become usable, there's a few caveats to it. You have to have her S1. Her S1 is required for damage. If you don't have her S1, she's going to be disappointing no matter what you do. And then she also needs her ECB3. The whole point of Pylgia is that she has her ECB3 active 100% of the time. And if you have ECB1 or 2, then her ECB is not permanently active and she ends up struggling pretty hard. So you need both of those, and then you need somebody to force her to go into her enhanced state. I'm going to skip this song. And the best person currently to force her into her enhanced state is going to be Dudu. Dudu can purposely defeat one of your own allies and then revive that ally. And whenever one of your allies are defeated, Pylgia immediately goes into that enhanced state. So you can sort of cheat Pylgia out by using Dudu, but even then, like, you cheat Pylgia out onto the field, she doesn't do enough to like there's the reward for bringing Dudu and doing all these cheap tricks. The reward is not high enough to warrant using those cheap tricks. It's not good enough. Now, Shen's coming out, and I'm including Shen on this tier list. Shen does make Pylgia worthwhile. If you are running Pylgia with Shen, I will put Pylgia in worth raising. If you're running Pylgia with Shen, then it's good enough. But every other scenario, unless you have S1 ECB3 and you're willing to play around all of her like struggles, then I would put Pylgia down here. It fails probably for her own role. She's this wave clear raid boss that can't wave clear until the wave's already cleared. It's just the weirdest design decision ever. Okay, next up, Tetra. Tetra's if you're a fan category. She is same boat as Iron, or like she's a core breaker. She's got some other stuff going on. She can like stun people, I guess. Like, who cares? It doesn't do anything. And like at the end of the day, like if you're trying to use Tetra, the rest of her kit's not worth playing around. The only thing that you should really consider is the fact that she core breaks. Even like the crit bonuses that she gives, it's way too much to play around Tetra and getting that 20% crits than it is to like just get it from another source. It's not worth using Tetra. You should only consider her as a core breaker, and as a core breaker, it puts her above Iron, but still below Hella. Hella as a body is still better than Tetra. Okay, moving on to Dudu. Dudu is in great power, with most of the healers are going to be here at the bottom of a great power. What ends up happening is that every team needs a healer, and Dudu is one of the best. She is like tied for first place with two others, with Hamill and Shen, for best healing in the game. But the thing that Dudu has to like stand out with her competition is she has like this revive mechanic. She has like some DPS, and she has she has a bunch of like really neat tricks. The neat tricks we've already talked about a little bit with God, I keep hitting Zero songs and I don't like them. We've talked about the cheap tricks with like reviving Pylgia, or reviving Pylgia's ally, and like forcing Pylgia to enter the corrupted state. She can also do that with like ECBs. Like if you have that Ignition, that slot 2 crime brand that puts 2 sprites on the field that you can pick up for energy, you can purposefully destroy your own ally that's carrying Ignition, immediately revive them with Dudu, and there will be 4 Ignitions on the field now. And you can do a lot of like cheating with Dudu with anything that's like at start of battle. Pylgia will duplicate those effects when they're revived, and it's pretty good to like cheat out some of these effects. But it's a lot of like cheese territory that's not really providing enough benefit to like, I'm going to bring Dudu to do this. It's usually not worth it. You can also do it with like Kokolek. Kokolek will start at max energy. You can put 2 flowers on somebody, purposely kill Kokolek, revive Kokolek. She'll be at full energy again and apply 2 more flowers. So you can like cheat out all of Kokolek's flowers really easy, really early on in the game. And you can do a lot of these neat tricks. But at the end of the day, most players are just going to use her as a healer that can revive somebody. And considering that scenario, she is great power. Now, if you are like a max shackle whale, you're a max shackle, max level, pause spamming, BFL, speed running, max score chasing whale, then you would put her in the tippy top of the meta. What ends up happening is that Duo is like the best wave clear in the game. For max shackle max level runs, right? I'm talking about whales only. If you are a whale, Duo is the best wave clear in the game. Pair her with LL and it's just insane synergy. And Duo does almost everything just by herself. So many of these like max score chasers have like it timed out to where as soon as the wave spawns, that's when Duo's explosion happens. Like they've timed it out in advance. So each one of Duo's 3 pulses are killing an entire wave. And it's a very powerful setup, but again, it's whale territory only, and for every other player, they should be thinking about her in great power as a standalone healer. Okay, next up we have Flynn. Lynn is okay. She's another one of these people who has like this really weird core breaking stuff, really fringe. I'm torn between if she's better or worse than Hella. She's not as good as EMP. I'm gonna say that she's slightly better than Hella. And ultimately, like, she's this core breaker that has a really awkward core break mechanic, but she hits everything in a line in front of her and has like quote-unquote infinite range in like this one column. She's like a baby Corin, and it's decent damage. She does give crit damage when you core break stuff, but that's a really niche mechanic. That's again very difficult and awkward to play around. And I wouldn't really consider like the crit damage buff when she core breaks. It's just way too difficult to like make that happen consistently, and I would just use her as like a DPS option that can eventually core break something if like they're coming down a long stretch. Lynn's good, but there's nothing that really says like, oh my god, she's worth raising. She is the end god. Like if you want to bring Lynn, like you can. She's a core break that does okay damage in a straight line. AoE, like it's good, it's nothing to write home about. Okay, next up is 11. 11 is getting your Reforge coming up, but this is not talking about Reforged 11. If we're talking about Reforged 11, then she probably is like here in the best magical team. Like Reforged 11 is insane. She's like either up here at tippy top of the meta, used on multiple teams, or like the just best team on the magical. I haven't tested it yet. I've just like seen and done my research. Reforged 11 will be insane. But talking about regular 11, regular 11 has fallen off a bit and she's in the worth raising tier now. What ends up happening is that, first of all, the magic damage archetype, the magic damage centers are in high demand. There's a lot of really good physical options. There's not that many good magical options. And 11, even though she's not the greatest compared to like the physical options, she was still one of the best magical options. She has like the burst damage on her ult, and like the ult will go off doing a huge amount of damage, and the hand will slam, which does another like burst of really good damage, and that hand sticks around to do consistent damage afterwards. And it's really, really, really good on story, mania training, and ROTD. And if you're playing one of those more casual stages, then Brewing 11, by God, she is like on like story or whatever, she is like up here, great powered, like really high in the tier list. But when we're talking about in the overall view of like bosses included, 11 does start to struggle. Her damage, she still is like the wave clear god, but looking at the competition nowadays, other characters will do her job at cheaper SP costs and more effectively. Like everything that 11 does, Blue does better. So while she used to be like the best option as like this AoE core breaker with sustained damage, burst damage, and wave clear, like everything I just described is what Blue does, and Blue does it infinitely better. So she's fallen off quite a bit. The competition has gotten more fierce for her, but she will be getting a Reforged that puts her back into the top of the meta. But as of right now, as a standalone level 70 center, even on like the Fear team, which the Fear team's overrated, let's be honest, she's not pumping high enough numbers to hit the great power. She's still worth raising because she does do all that wave clear, and she is like phenomenal on like story stages and all these like prolonged mobbing stages. But against bosses specifically, she does tend to struggle. Okay, heading back down to A ranks, let's grab Matilda. I really like Matilda. Matilda, she's so close to worth raising. I'm going to put her in if you're a fan. Matilda might make a comeback if they ever decide to reforge Kokolek. If you ever get a Kokolek reforged, then Matilda's going to be up there again. Matilda, she doesn't really do anything until she clicks her ECB. And when she clicks her ECB 3, she turns into like this god for 10 seconds. And it's really good, especially if you play around it. Like, she's almost comparable to Summer during her ECB 3. Like, she keeps up really well. But it's only one time per stage and doesn't last that long. Most of the time, she is like this 2 core break center. And she can, if she core broke in an AoE, if she had 2 core break for everybody in that tile, I would put her in worth raising. But Matilda only does 2 core break to 1 target on 1 tile. And because that really limits her applications, I'm going to leave her in if you're a fan category. Again, really good damage when she decides to pop that ECB. Really good 2 core break on like a okay cost. But she hits the same problem that Summers does, where like all of her damage is single target, and she really struggles to keep up the pressure. Again, if she ever gets like a Kokolek Reforge or something that like puts her back on a dedicated team, then she's gonna like skyrocket to the top again. But right now, the teams that she's used in, not enough support. Okay, I'm skipping this song because it's loud. Okay, next up we have Infer. Okay, so one thing I want to say is that Infer spheres do not matter. Do not play around Infer in like the context of a fear team, or like, oh, the boss is immune to fears. Like, okay, nobody cares about the fears. Like, yes, if Infer does like fear somebody, it's insane damage, blah blah, whatever, who cares? We're not playing around like the fantasy land of everything perfectly aligning from the sun to Neptune. We're not considering like the perfect scenario. We're talking about the average performance. And the average performance is that Infer is going to give somebody a 40% damage boost, and she's going to break 2 cores. Okay, that's what Infer does. And when we end up talking about this, Infer is a buffer, single target buffer, who provides a large damage boost. And she has a few people competing with her. She has LL competition, she has Cabernet competition, and at the end of the day, Infer, as of right now, is the worst of these buffers. She is like, she has the qualities to be at the tippy top of the meta, but since she's the worst of these buffers, there is argument to put her at the very tippy top of great power. But what's end up happening here is that we are getting more centers who like Infer more. Around the corner we have Shen. Shen and Infer pair really well together. Cabernet and Infer pair really well together. Infer is better with centers that already have attack boosts, like Corin and Yao. They already have like insane attack percentages, and they don't need more attack percentages from Cabernet and Shen because you get like diminishing returns. Oversaturation of attack boosts, like that's a real thing. And if you already have attack boosts, then you want Infer. If you are an HP based character like Vanilla wants Infer because Vanilla does not care about attack boosts. If we're talking about true damage characters like Kokolek, then Infer is better because they don't need the attack to punch through armor. They're ignoring all armor because it's true damage. And what ends up happening is that even though Infer is currently the worst of these buffers, Infer is getting a lot of support coming up. There's a lot of true damage centers, there's Shin coming out, there's a lot of things that makes Infer more desirable coming out. And while it was like Infer is getting lower and lower on the tier list with every release, we're getting into a season where like Infer is getting higher and higher and higher with every release. So I am going to leave Infer at the tippy top of the meta, used on multiple meta-defining teams, because she's going to see more and more widespread play as more releases come out. She's seeing increased use going forward. Okay, up next, let's talk about Picassi. Picassi's alright. I struggle to say whether Picassi is better or worse than EMP. They do different things, but I'm going to say that most players, especially when they first starting out, this is a live performance, I'm going to skip it. Especially when they first start out, they are going to see EMP as the better character. And really what ends up happening is that Picassi is very similar to Serpent, where like all of their damage is done over time. They have this one AoE core break, but there's nothing that really gives them the punch that they need. They kind of just exist on the field and like slowly do their thing, and that's the emphasis here. Slowly do their thing, and it doesn't like keep up with the stronger centers. It doesn't keep up with the speed of the game. It doesn't keep up with like RTD. She's really just like, if you want to use her on story and like have her be like a 1 damage or 1 core break, then like fine, it works. But she's never gonna be in a situation where like she pops off and like clears a map. She just slowly does chip damage with her radiation and provides a core break. And in most scenarios, I would think that players would prefer EMP's range over like the sustained area control that Picassi can offer. Okay, next up is Demon. Demon, ooh. Okay, in most scenarios, Demon is not that great. If you have Demon at very high shackles, then he does go into great power. Demon is used on certain teams where he just absolutely bloats everybody with this attack damage. It's a very unintentional thing that PtN did, and they're like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool, we'll keep it. We're not gonna do anything to stop Demon from abusing this feature. But you need very high shackles, and you need a very specific team, and you need very specific bosses to use that team against. So for 98% of players, they're never going to see it, they're never going to use it. For most players, Demon is a Endura that can shield the team behind him for a limited amount of time. And under that context, Demon is, if you're a fan, material. The fact that he's purely defensive, and his shields don't last long enough for most players to like really make use of it. Like, you have to know that an AoE attack is coming, and even then you have to like group up for the AoE to like shield against it, and it's a lot of work to do very little. You'd be much better off using other Enduras that provide like realistic boosts to their team, rather than trying to hide behind Demon and make use of this shield that doesn't really amount to much. Okay, next up we have, I don't know, let's do, I like, man, I forget her name. Should have picked her if I don't remember her name. If you remember her name, hats off to you. I'm trying to remember it. She's EMP's best friend. She came out with Infer. She didn't come out with Infer, did she? No, not Infer. She came out with Etti? No, not Etti. Whatever. She is, if you're a fan category, she is worse than Hella. She used to be okay. She has like the situation where she can like really stack up attack bonuses, and if you animation cancel her with like another person who already wants to be animation canceled, so you like animation cancel 2 people at the same time, then you can dump all of her attack boosts onto a single target and do some pretty decent damage. But what ends up happening is it's not worth it anymore. We're not in like season 0 of Dark Zone. We're not on high risk BFL. We are in a much more advanced state of the game, and she does not keep up. She came out with Serpent. That's right. She came out with Serpent. Okay, sorry, that was bugging me. She hits hard, but she has to jump through so many hoops to hit hard, and even when she does hit hard, it's all normal attack based with no attack speed, so you have to like animation cancel each and every attack, and it's just not worth putting all of the setup required into her and then doing everything that you need to after the setup to make it happen. Mess is just not keeping up with the competition. She's struggling. Okay, next up is Lady Pearl. Lady Pearl is going into the tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams category. Lady Pearl is the opposite of LL. While LL boosts skill damage, Lady Pearl boosts normal damage, normal attack damage. And if you are using a normal attack center, if you are using Corin, if you're using Summer, if you're using Bianca, you're using like Nox, then Lady Pearl's your girl. All of the normal attack based teams want Lady Pearl, and everybody who does their damage through normal attacks wants Lady Pearl. Lady Pearl is used on multiple meta-defining teams. In fact, any and all teams that use normal attacks, Lady Pearl is like the best partner. We're talking about Hypatia, we're talking about 11 in some cases, we're talking about Corin, we're talking about every single normal attack character, like Kokolik. Everybody out there, it wants Lady Pearl. Unless you do skill damage, in which case you don't care about Lady Pearl ever. But Lady Pearl, tippy top of the meta, great character, does everything. It's all about the stage, it's all about the ECB. She does do like good damage to the waves as like a standalone character, but you're not playing her for her own personal DPS. You're playing her as a full support unit, running full support crime brands, doing full support things. This is a support unit that can pack out some wave clear if you force it. But it's not worth forcing because he'd rather force her partners rather than Lady Pearl herself. Okay, next up, let's talk about Chelsea. Chelsea, better or worse than Demon? Ooh, that's a question. I'll say worse than Demon. Chelsea. Chelsea's very unique. She's an Endura that only blocks 1, but her summon can block 2. And it used to be in a lot of situations, we're talking about like Hysterical Mania training, some like very fringe scenarios, Chelsea was your best bet. Chelsea would like split her damage between, she does split her damage between her summon, and she can like heal her summon, and it was actually like, and there's a bunch of like summon boosts in these Mania trainings and all these other things that you could do to make summons really powerful and really tanky. And Chelsea's cats would survive a lot of punishments that other Enduras could not survive. And it gives Chelsea this niche where like no other Endura can do what Chelsea does. But that niche doesn't come around very often. I've used it maybe 3 times over the past 3 years as like, oh, this is my best option. So while it does like come into play sometimes, it doesn't come into play enough, especially in like recent times. Like there's been better and better options. Chelsea's falling further and further behind, but she has her uses. And if you want like a 1-core break and a 2-core break, and if you want a 1 block unit and a 2 block unit on the same team, and you have like the healing to keep up with both of them, then like it's fine, it's great, she works. But ultimately, if you're a fan category who can pop off like once a year. On like a Mania training or a Hysterical or something like that. But very, very fringe scenarios where she's the best user, but sometimes she is the best center for the given situation. Okay, moving on. I'm going to skip this song because it's boring. Let's go on to Langley. Langley is worth raising. She's worse than Summer. Langley's never been at the top of the meta. She's always been like this fringe pick. And she used to have like good sustained damage. Now there's better sustained damage. Like anytime you see Langley, it's just better to use Lady Pearl. Every time you see Langley, it's better to use Corin. Every time you see Langley, it's better to use like Hypatia. Like Langley's really struggling lately. And she used to have like this death bomb where like anybody that she has marked will explode. And what you would do is that like waves would run on top of the boss. You would mark all of them with Langley ult, and then you would wave clear that wave, and that wave would make the boss explode. You're not really seeing that much anymore. You're not seeing the waves overlap with the boss. That'd be premium AoE for most characters. Like, oh my god, that'd be the easiest stage in the world. And even if you did have that scenario, the damage isn't really there to really like go home about. Langley is like a consistent DPS option with like max range, like the highest range in the game, and 1 core break. She's worth raising. She'll like do her job, but she's not going to be in a situation where she pops off and like is the reason you won the stage. Like there's just so many other better sustained damage options nowadays that she's at like the bottom of worth raising. Okay, next up, let's talk about forget her name. Why am I forgetting everybody's name? Chameleon. Chameleon fails to properly fulfill her own role. There used to be a time back in like the first year of Path to Nowhere where people didn't have a chance to raise into the A ranks, and anybody that you raised, you were like the first one to raise it. Like you were the first person to bring Picassi to max level. You were the first person to bring Chameleon to P3. You were the first person to ever use Dr. Iron. And a lot of these like places where nobody had used her yet and people were theory crafting, they're like, oh, she's going to be really good in Tide of Ashes. She's going to be really good in these scenarios. She's going to be really good on like Cocolet teams because she can give attack speed. Well, what ends up happening is that all of that attack speed comes in so slow. To make use of Chameleon, you have to like stack her ultimate multiple times. And even if you do stack it multiple times, like the attack speed isn't that great. And that's all she's doing is giving attack speed. So it takes her way too long to come online. It's not worth spending energy on her. It's not worth doing this. It's not worth doing that. Just the entire character as a whole is just too slow. And for a character who's trying to be fast, it's so bad. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't fulfill a role. Like anytime you want to use Chameleon, like there's no reason to. I mean, like if you want to use Chameleon, use Lady Pearl. Like that's just obvious. Like Lady Pearl does everything Chameleon would ever want to do, but better. But even if like you don't have Lady Pearl and it's like, oh, I want to use like the attack speed that Lady Pearl provides, you still wouldn't use Chameleon because it's still too slow. She doesn't fulfill her own role. She's not worth raising. She's every time you bring Chameleon onto the team, you can leave her out of the team and perform exactly the same. She provides literally nothing to your team. Okay, moving on to Cabernet, who does everything for your team. I struggle to put Cabernet before or below Lady Pearl, honestly. Let's put her below Lady Pearl. And the reason I'm putting her below Lady Pearl is because Cabernet does, in a lot of scenarios, want her S1, her first shackle. And in other cases, Cabernet doesn't have enough cast of her ECB to keep ulting continuously throughout the stage. You're not going to see Cabernet on like Tide of Ashes because you don't get enough ultimates. You're not going to see her in ROTD because you don't get enough uptime. You're not going to see her in Mania training because she doesn't get enough uptime or ultimates. Like you're only going to see her in BFL. She is a very specialized I am going to be used in BFL character, but she's very good in BFL. Now, you don't care about Cabernet's healing. There are like some very fringe scenarios where like you just barely die to the boss and you need that like 10% healing that Cabernet provides once to like survive the BFL stage, but you never really consider that. Cabernet is there for the cleanse, and she is there for the attack boosts. Now, the attack boosts here are really important because when we talk about attack boosts, all the character's damage, all the Ascender's damage is going to be reduced by the enemy's defense. And that reduction is a flat amount. Okay, let's say you have 600 attack, right? And the enemy has 300 defense. Doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter which attack you use, all of your attacks are doing half damage. Because 600 minus 300 is 300. You have 300 effective attack. Now let's say you like get 50% more damage, right? You would think that 50% more attack. You would think that 50% more attack would make you do 50% more damage, right? That's just logical thinking like, okay, cool, I'm a monkey, 50% more attack, 50% more damage, yes, they're equal. That's not the case. In that example of like 600 attack versus 300 defense, if you boost that 600 by 50%, turn it to 900 attack, it's now 900 attack minus 300 defense, and you have 600 effective attack. That is double the 300 effective attack you had earlier. So in that scenario, 50% attack gave you double damage. Okay, so attack boosts are really useful to characters who are trying to hit over armor. And that is extra true for BFL, where everything has like 350 armor. Like 350 armor is like an average amount of armor for BFL nowadays. It's like having a 700 damage center, that's really impressive actually. So you are going to see Cabernet like actually doubling people's damage in BFL. So if they're like low level, if they're high level, it's not going to be double. But if they're like level 70s, like yeah, Cabernet will absolutely double people's damage in BFL, and it's very hard to like have somebody who competes with Cabernet, especially when she provides everything that she does in a large AoE and provides consistent core breaking. Now outside of BFL, that core breaking isn't consistent, her ultimate isn't consistent, and the targets don't have enough armor for those attack boosts to double anybody's damage. Like, it's only good against high defense targets. But the fact that Cabernet is so good at hitting over high defense targets, she is absolutely tippy top of the meta and used on multiple meta defining teams, very, very, very specifically in BFL. She's just a crazy good center. And like, she used to be mandatory on against a few bosses. Like, you had to use her. Or like have like max level centers and like brute force it. But like, she's very strong and she keeps up even today. Now, she is getting power crept. We'll talk about that in a second. Cabernet is getting power crept. Okay, next up, let's talk about... Oh man, I'm not even going to try to remember her name. Oh man, she was in Corin's event. I love her. It's like Meera or something like that. It starts with an M, I'm sure. Good character. She is like a pseudo Endura. She likes to tank enemies and she like reflects that damage back at them by like punching rapidly. And there's a few scenarios where like she's very good if enemies attack her very quickly. But at the end of the day, she would probably be better if she was an Endura. The fact that she only blocks one is a big limiting to her character. And I'm going to go ahead and say that like she's alright. I'm going to put her right above Demon. I think she's better than Demon in most scenarios. She's not as good as these two because these two provide core break, but she's very good at what she does. And if you want somebody to just sit there and soak up damage and like kind of reflect, quote unquote, she doesn't reflect damage, but like she functionally like does more damage when she's attacked, so I'm going to call it reflect damage. If you want like a body that can sit out in the front and reflect the damage at everything around her, then she's a pretty good choice. But ultimately, the scenarios in which she used are story, ROTD, mania training. Like, if you're looking to have some fun, you can use her, but you're not gonna like bring her to like a PFL stage or any like super giga hard timed content, or like you're not gonna be struggling on a story chapter and be like, oh, what can I do to beat this stage? Oh, I'm gonna raise Meera. Like that's not what's gonna happen. You can have some fun with her, but she's not gonna make or break you. Okay, moving on to Hamill. Hamill has great power. Again, most healers are going to end up here in great power. Every team needs a healer. They only need one healer. Pick your favorite healer, it's going to work. Hamill is the most basic and the most boring of all the healers. She heals people passively around her, and as the stage goes on, her healing range becomes bigger and bigger until it covers the entire map at 90 seconds. But she doesn't do anything beyond just healing. And she does have like better healing than Duo in a lot of scenarios, but Duo has like some tricks up her sleeve that Hamill just doesn't have. So Hamill's good. She's got like insane healing percentages on her. If you're like trying to casually clear story or something like that, then Hamill's an absolute beast of a choice. But she doesn't have like the tricks to keep up with like speedrun content. You're not gonna really see her in BFL or anything like that. She just lacks the tools up her sleeve to tackle big problems. Okay, next up, let's take a look at Joan. Joan is surprisingly worth raising still to this day. She's kind of like Langley, where she has like a death explosion kind of thing, and if you get the death explosion off, then it's pretty satisfying to like watch a boss HP explode because like Joan death explosion to everybody. But that's a dream scenario. You're not really going to get it. She's really just like this consistent AoE, consistent AoE and consistent single target center that reduces magic resistance, and it's good. Like if you need like a sixth member to throw onto your magical team, if you're running like crit Arcana or something, and you need like a third Arcana, Joan's pretty good. She's actually good, but she doesn't do anything crazy. She doesn't core break. She struggles to keep up with the current cast. Like, she's good enough to be worth raising and to be used, but it's It's nothing meta-defining or anything close to that. She's like a good 6th member if you need a support piece on your team that can like clear waves and or shred magic resist. It's good, not amazing. Okay, moving on to Shen. Shen is power creep. Shen is power creep. So Shen does everything that Hamill does, okay? Everything that Hamill does, Shen does. But everything that Cabernet does, Shen also does. Shen is... She starts off as a healer, and then she's an immortal sinner, so she has this M-value corruption state. When she enters her corruption state, she switches from being Camel to being Cabernet. So instead of giving like this massive healing boost to everybody, she starts giving this massive attack boost to everybody. And it just, she ends up doing what Hamill does, and she does what Cabernet does, but she does it better than both of them. Shen is absolutely insane, and will absolutely be meta-defining on every meta-used team. In fact, every team will use Shen, whether you're casual or like speedrunning. Shen is used everywhere. She is able to keep up on sustained stages, unlike Cabernet. She's able to provide some tricks up her sleeves, unlike Hamill, and she is just the best of both of Hamill and of Cabernet put into one character who can also cheese out multiple other immortal centers. Shen has this ECB that gives everybody on the field corruption. All immortals, on the field, corruption. And at higher shackles, she becomes even more ridiculous, but I'm talking specifically ECB 0, ECB 1, same difference. Shen is insane. And she can give M value to other immortal sinners and cheese these sinners out. If you have Pilgia with Shen, specifically with Shen, you can ignore Pilgia's like have to wave clear before I do anything requirements, and she actually becomes worth raising. Because she doesn't have to like wave clear 20 enemies before she enters her enhanced state. Shen can just use her ECP and force Pilgia into her advanced state, just like cheat it out, and then Pilgia actually starts doing things. It's very powerful. So Shen is absolutely insane and like absolutely cheeses out and makes the other immortal characters infinitely stronger. But even on non-immortal characters, she is a better Hamill and a better Cabernet in one character. She's absolutely insane, and like maybe like I have not tested it myself yet, but she might actually be better than LL. I doubt it though. LL is just way too good. LL is just way too good. But Shen absolutely power creeps the meta right now, and she's just absolutely insane. And if you really like using vanilla, if you really like using Mantis, if you really like using some of like Cassia or Pilgia or any of these other like immortal centers, then Shen is just like an absolute god amongst gods and will absolutely carry your team to like the brink and back. She's ridiculously good. Big recommend pull on her. Get her S0. Her S1 is a nice quality of life, but not mandatory. It's just really convenient to have. It just makes your life easier. It doesn't make her stronger. It just makes it's just quality of life. It makes your job easier. It doesn't make her stronger. Okay, next up, let's talk about Cinnabar. Cinnabar is a worse demon. Cinnabar is an Endura. She blocks 2, and she gives shields to people. And that's it. That's all she does. And if you need an Endura that blocks 2 and can provide shield to people, then sure, you can bring her if you're a fan. Like, sure, if that's what you want to do, do it. It's not bad. In fact, it's pretty good. But the fact is, like, every time you want to bring Cinnabar, there's another Endura who actually provides like offensive pressure. There's going to be like Owo, there's going to be Yugo, there's going to be Rahu. There's just going to be an Endura that can actually provide offensive pressure instead of purely defensive utility. And the fact that she doesn't do any core break, she doesn't provide any damage boost, she doesn't have anything fancy. She's just down here in the if you're a fan category, and if you want to use her as an Endura that can provide shields, go ahead, but no, there's better options. Okay, speaking of the Immortals, let's talk about Mantis. Mantis, oh boy, Mantis, you have had a rough time. Mantis. You were supposed to... Okay, so Mantis was supposed to get really, really strong with the addition of Jelena. Mantis does all of her damage as crit. Jelena boosts crit. Yugo came out, who boosts skill damage and crit, both of which Mantis does. And like theoretically, Mantis becomes like this powerhouse. But in actuality, Mantis still struggles. She struggles to get her M value up in time, and even then, she has this really powerful ult, but it's really, really expensive SP cost. Like, it's really hard to get her rolling. And like, Umbra Core just came out. Like, Mantis should be popping off with Graves and Parfait and all these other options, but like, her SP cost is so high, and it can be difficult to get her into a corrupted state, that she just needs so much support to do what she wants to do. And at the end of the day, like, if you get her to work, like, you have like the team set up, you have her with LL, you have her with Shen, you have her with Graves, you have her with Parfait, and like, you have enough cores to break to get the buffs from Parfait and Graves. Like, if everything lines up, she is at the top of great power. She is right there alongside Summer. But it's just so many hoops to jump through to get Graves to where she needs to be. And the fact that you have to jump through so many hoops to get that to happen... Oh, that's the wrong thing. Since you have to jump through so many hoops to get that to happen, I'm going to put her at the top of Worth Raising instead. It's just way too many hoops you have to jump through to force Mantis. You can absolutely force Mantis if you want to. If you, like, again, Shen and LL and Graves and Parfait, and you find the cores to break, and you find, like, the perfect scenarios from Sun to Neptune, everything is perfectly aligned, the cosmics is, like, agreeing with you, smiling upon you, and blessing you, Mantis is amazing. But in most scenarios, Mantis just... she's not going to have that dream scenario that everybody wants her to have, and she ends up being Worth Raising. If you are Max Shackle Whale speedrunning, then Mantis is going to be up here at tippy top of the meta, because she is used in a lot of those, like, Max Shackle, Max Whaled, Max Score chasing, with like the pause cheesing and all that other stuff. Like, if you're the Giga Whale, then like sure, put her in tippy top, but like for most players, she's just Worth Raising. It's way too hard to squeeze the most out of this stone. Okay, moving on to Ekko. Let's do Ekko. Ekko's actually really good, like really good. I'm gonna put her like right below Matilda. Ekko's slept on. Like, nobody talked about Ekko. She came out with Lady Pearl, and I haven't seen a single other person besides me use Ekko ever. But Ekko has some sauce. She operates kind of similar to like Kelvin and like Lamia and like that archetype of like slowing the enemies like Lisa and like keeping them constrained to the starting tiles and not letting them move. That's where Ekko shines. Sort of just like stalling out like the harder story stages or like the EX stages, stuff like that, where she just doesn't let the enemies move off the starting squares and they eventually die. Ekko's really good in those scenarios. She does a lot of damage, she buffs her team, she's a solid character. But again, she's only used in like these really fringe scenarios where you're relying on the crowd control to make sure that the enemies don't get to play the game. And in regular content where it's just like her kind of like splashed on the team to do damage and like debuff, and like maybe you use the route that she has for a few seconds, maybe you don't. She's not really worth bringing as your 6th or 5th unit. In all those scenarios, it's probably better just to bring Joan. Joan's probably providing more to your team on like a consistency basis. But Ekko's good. And in those like fringe scenarios where like you are using her for what her kit is set out to do, of like keeping people stuck in a very restrained space, Ekko's like top tier. But in most scenarios, she's just if you're a fan material. She also has a very fun voice line when she's put on the battlefield. So, test it out. Place her on the battlefield, let her say one word, and then immediately take her off the battlefield. Just do that a few times and you'll see what I mean. Okay, moving on, we have Vanilla. Vanilla is Worth Raising. I don't think she's in great power, not anymore. Not with like the way I've revamped the tier list. Especially with like as content is becoming harder and harder. Vanilla is another one of these units. She scales off of HP, and she's another one of these units that wants to be at like max level. because like HP scaling centers just scale insanely well from levels. And you can do some like ridiculous stuff if you pair like Infer and Vanilla together. Infer and Vanilla are the best team because, again, Vanilla does max HP damage, and this is a live performance, I'm going to skip it. Vanilla does max HP damage. She does not care about attack, so she does not work with Cabernet. She doesn't really work with Shen. She really likes Infer as her teammate. But, I don't know, the problem with Vanilla still stays. She can struggle to get into her corrupted state, and even when she's in her corrupted state, she really relies on overlapped AoEs to get anything done. And if the stage is not allowing her to hit the wave and the boss at the same time, then she's not doing her job. I'm gonna put her right above Mantis in Worth Raising. I know Mantis is better in like the perfect scenario. Mantis is better than perfect scenario Vanilla, but a high level like level 90 Vanilla can do a lot of things by herself for like a casual player. Like she can almost solo BFL stages. She used to solo BFL stages, but like a level 90 Vanilla and a level 90 Infer can like probably still duo these BFL stages, and it's really good damage and tanking in one package. It's very good. It's just there's a lot of caveats to it, and it's difficult for her to keep up with the stronger options. But if this is your girl, if you like Vanilla, or even if you just want an Enduro who does like some core rigging, like sure, she's great. But I forgot to mention this. Vanilla and LL are like amazing together, like absurdly good together. But in a lot of these scenarios, there's just better options. You're just relying on too many hoops to get Vanilla into the spot that she needs to be. But hey, you can absolutely look up like Vanilla like BFL clears and see Vanilla like absolutely pop off and like destroy stage. Again, there's just better, more consistent options. We're talking about consistency here. Okay, next up, Garofano. Garofano is awful. Like really awful. Like really awful. There used to be this thought that Garofano, I mean it was very short-lived, there used to be this thought that Garofano should be on weak spot teams because she does apply weak spot and she does have like some weak spot tricks. Just it turns out that Garofano's too weak. She doesn't, even in the context of a weak spot team, she doesn't do enough. But at the end of the day, she does provide one core break. She does have a pretty interesting range that's similar to Graves' range. And she can pretend like she's participating and do some neat things. If you're a fan, you can use her. You won't be disappointed having like this ranged core breaker. It's not the worst thing in the world, but there's much better things you can be doing. Much better things you can be doing. Even on weak spot, like just throw Infer on the team. Like Infer's contribution is going to be infinitely better than Garofano's contribution. Cabernet, Lady Pearl, Shin, they're all going to have like infinitely better contribution than Garofano, even on weak spot team. Hell, LL, who doesn't buff the damage of weak spot because weak spot is normal attack, and LL should not be on weak spot team. I think LL is still better than Garofano because at least you can give more energy to Sean on the weak spot team. And it's just, Garofano is just not doing enough, even on her own dedicated team. She's just too weak to contribute. Okay, next up we have Raven. Raven used to be in the Unrivaled tier. She was up here at the tippy top of the meta. Since then, Raven is not being used on multiple meta-defining teams. Even on very specific Arcana teams, she is still not seeing use. People are using Hecate instead. And what ends up happening is that Raven and Hecate are directly competing. And Raven is technically, like, theoretically better. But Hecate is just easier to play. And Hecate has her summon, which is, like, seeing more and more use as enemies are hitting harder and harder and coming from, like, more varied locations. And it turns out that the utility of having having Nightmare around is just as good, if not better, than the bonuses that Raven provides. And Raven is now, like, down here with more. Great power. She's As more and more Sinners come out, as more and more stages happen, Raven's inclusion is seeing less and less. She's become less of a mandatory damage amp and more of like a situational damage amp. And like, I have videos on my channel. Look it up. Go look on my channel right now and look up Raven, level 70 Raven solos Dark Zone. Okay? Back in the day, my level 70 Raven soloed Dark Zone stages. Okay, that is a true statement. I have video proof on my channel of level 70 Raven soloing Dark Zone. She doesn't do that anymore. Competition's gotten way too fierce. I keep getting live performances again. There's so many live performances in this playlist. I should have found a better playlist before I started. But she's fallen off so much, and her supportive nature, she's seeing way too much competition with Akate for me to put her in the tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams. She's down here with more where like she can be the best option, but it's the situation in which she is the best option is not as common as she used to be, and she's now just great power. Okay, next up, Christina. Christina fails properly for her own role. This character is awful. I don't know what they were thinking when they made her. She is absolute dog. Don't use her. Thank me later. Oh. Okay, so she breaks a core. So she does something. But even then, like, damn, she's bad. There is this idea that she should be used on like normal attack teams, including like including Kokalik teams, because she has this thing where she can like make a partner do more damage whenever they auto attack. But that ability has a 1 second cooldown. So all these normal attack teams are either shooting really fast or they're animation canceling. And it turns out that the pathetic damage that Christina provides once a second doesn't matter. It doesn't do anything. And Christina has this weird situation where like half of her things are defensive and half of her things are offensive. And her defensive things requires her to use her ult to get the benefits of her defensive units, of her defensive bonuses. But if Christina is using her ult, then that target is being core broken and can no longer use their offenses because they're stunned. So like, why does Christina have defenses locked behind an ultimate that is going to stun them anyways? Like it doesn't do anything for her. So half of Christina's kit just literally doesn't exist. The cooldown on her pathetic amount of damage that she provides is way too oppressive, and she just doesn't do anything. It's just such a disappointing character. They could remove the 1 second requirement from her passive entirely, and she would still barely be in the if you're a fan category. She's just so weak. Okay, next up, Angel. Angel has great power. To this day, Angel is still keeping up. In fact, Angel is doing better and better now that Umbra Core is a thing. The more cores you break, the better Angel is. Now, I will say that Parfait's passive does not work with Angel, and I'm going to say that in a very specific way. So, Parfait has a passive where every time you break a core, it counts as 2. Angel has a passive, every time an enemy loses a core, she gets a Blade Shade. So it almost reads like Parfait would give Angel 2 Blade Shades. It's not how it works. Turns out breaking a core and losing a core are 2 different mechanics. So even though you technically break 2 cores for every 1 Umbra core with Parfait, they're still only losing 1 core. They've only lost 1 Umbra core. So Angel is still only getting 1 Blade Shade from that 1 Umbra core, which is a bit of a disappointment. I thought Angel was going to absolutely pop off with Parfait. Doesn't happen. But Angel is still like this really, really good secondary DPS core breaker. She can break 4 cores very rapidly, very consistently, pretty much every stage. And she's getting better and better support, and she's supporting better and better as the game goes on. Now she does have like some pretty steep like range requirements, like overlap. She does, in a lot of scenarios, she does need to be able to like overlap the waves or like elites and the bosses at the same time. And it's difficult to get scenarios where that happens. But even then, like she's getting more support with Graves and with Parfait. It's good to have like her on all these core dense stages that we're getting more and more of, and she's getting more and more play, even though these stages are getting harder and harder for her. And if we ever do get a situation where she's overlapping the waves or elites and the bosses at the same time, then she's absolutely going to be popping off and like be the best use case scenario again. But Despite Angel struggling more and more, she's getting more and more support, and she's supporting teams better and better herself. And the 4 core break with all the burst damage that she provides keeps her within the great power realm, and she's able to keep up. So she's kind of shifting, she's falling behind a little bit, but she's getting more synergies that are allowing her to keep up. She's a great character, highly recommend her, especially if you're doing like story or mania training or ROTD. Like she's better in all those scenarios, but she's also really, really, really good in BFL because she is supporting and getting all the support that she needs from her teammates. And she's just a really solid character, a secondary DPS core break character who you can kind of see her as like akin to Infer and Cabernet, where like she's there to core break, and she does do damage, but that damage is kind of reliant on like how much her team can do, like how many cores her team can break, and like she's a support piece. She's not like your primary damage dealer, but she's a very good support piece who does a good job, especially when playing with other Umbras. So, great power, worth raising, good character, recommend. Next up, let's talk about 99. 99 is just worse Reforged Hella. 99 is a body on your field that does not die and does not do anything. And if you want to use 99 in a situation where you want the character who doesn't die, then 99 is great. But know that she's not going to do anything, she just kind of stands there and doesn't die. You can bring her to store if you want to. I have like showcases on my channel, I think I've deleted since then, where like 99 was a good option for 12.6. A lot of people struggled with 12.6 when it first came out. It's a lot harder when it first came out. And I use 99 to like great effectiveness because 99 just, even on 12.6, 99 didn't die. And it's very strong. But at the end of the day, that's all she did. She just stood there and soaked up damage and didn't do anything. And if you want to stand there and soak up damage, you should at least be an Endura so you can block 2. At the end of the day, like, she's not an Endura, she doesn't block 2, she has to wear a crime branch, she has to do this, she has to do that, just to accomplish nothing. So she's a body. If you want to use her, sure, why not? Go ahead. She's not going to be a detriment to your team, but she's not going to help your team either. Okay, looking at Yao. Yao in the old tier list was an unrivaled power. Unrivaled power no longer exists. You either are the best team, you are a meta-defining team that competes with the best team, or you're at the tippy top of the meta and you are used on multiple teams. Yao does not fit any of those categories. The burn team is not as strong as it used to be. It's struggling to keep up. And even then, like, the burn team is not actually all that good when used in like one singular package. It's actually better to just use like Yao and Infer and like LL too. It's better to use these 3 like standalone with Thistle instead of like trying to force the entire burn team together with like one of these supports. Turns out Yao on her own is stronger than the burn team as a whole, which is a very weird statement. Yao is just a better like burst nuker than she is as like a burn unit. And with that context, with the burn team not being that strong, with the burn team like not being that well held together, and with her being a very strong, good damage nuker, I'm going to put her at the top of great power. I don't know what happened to her thing there. Why'd, oh, there she goes. I'm putting her at the very top of great power. She does a lot of damage. She still keeps up with like the boss damage scenarios, but she doesn't keep up with like the dedicated teams. The dedicated teams are better, and Yao can struggle to keep up. But that being said, she still does insane damage, and it's good. Like, if you want to just like splash Yao and Infer or Yao and LL onto a team, like it's gonna be amazing. She hits really hard, but just know that you're bringing her because she hits hard, not because like she comes together in a burn team. The burn team is just not very strong. I'll talk more about the burn team when we get to Hestia. But if you are using Yao, it is mandatory to use Thistle. Just throw Thistle wherever she is. Just throw Thistle onto Yao's team. Thistle is Yao's best buffer. If the unit is capable of burning people, use Thistle. In fact, let's talk about Thistle. Thistle is great power. She is absurdly good. Thistle breaks 2 cores on a very low cooldown, and she has an ECB that increases their attack helping them hit over defense. And it's like a mini Infer. Thistle is a mini Infer. And Thistle can also be used with any burn units to be stronger than any of these people. Like specifically for burn units, Infer is like tippy top of the meta. But again, burn units only. For everybody else, Thistle is a 2-core break unit that provides an attack boost, and it's very, very consistent. And the synergies that she has with burn, and just as a standalone unit who provides an attack bonus that lets people hit over armor, great power. Very good character. You should raise her. Very good. Throw her in with burn units. Throw her in standalone. She's very strong. Okay, next up, let's talk about Adela. Adela is very clearly, if you're a fan, material. She does some damage. Gonna put her right below Ekko. Adela. Oh, Adela, you struggle. There's so many things that Adela needs to do. She's a crit damage character, so ideally, like theoretically, she works with Jelena and Hugo and the rest of like this crit team setup. Functionally, it's not that easy. There's Jelena, sorry, not Jelena. Adela already has so many crit damage bonuses that she sort of gets oversaturated in the context of Jelena, and she's not really receiving that good of a bonus from Jelena. It's like going from 300% crit damage to 400% crit damage isn't that good. Going from 0% to 100% is incredible. Going from 300 to 400, who cares? It's a very different story. And it's just so difficult for Adela to keep up her stacks, even at like Shackle 3. She struggles to keep up her stacks, and she has really poor crime brand options. Like there's no crime brands that Adela wants to use. If they somehow made a crime brand setup that Adela would want to use, then she'd be much better. But I don't know. Probably the biggest downside of Adela is the fact that she doesn't even turn online until she ults that first time. She has this 30 SP cost. So like when the stage starts, she's not in the enhanced sheer state, so she's not doing anything. She has to use her ultimate to get into the enhanced sheer state. And then when she's in the enhanced sheer state, she has to get like 9 attacks off before she's at max power. And what ends up happening is that you have this scenario similar to like Chameleon, where it just takes so long for Adela to reach her max power. And even when she's at her max power, she's not doing enough. Like you get Adela to her max power, like you animation cancel her, you do all this other nonsense. Like Corin does everything that Adela does, but better. Even in like situations where like Adela is the best option here, Corin does that same job but better. It's really disappointing that Adela still struggles as much as she does. And a large part of that is the fact that she's in that situation similar to Serpent, where she's doing both normal attack and skill damage. And because she has like all these weird restrictions, it's very hard to find the appropriate crime brands, and it's very hard to keep the enhanced sheer state, it's very hard to get into the enhanced sheer state. It's just so many caveats to Adela's damage, and even once you get to that damage, it doesn't keep up with stronger options. So you can use her if you want to. You're not going to be like disappointed by her. Like when she uses her ult and when she's in her enhanced sheer state, she does do impressive numbers. It's just a real pain in the ass to get her there. And when you get her there, the dedicated teams are going to be doing much more than Adela can do. Okay, next up, let's talk about Ignis. Ignis is awful. Ignis is really bad. I'm going to put her like right above Mr. Fox. There's this idea where Ignis is supposed to go on a burn team. She doesn't. She doesn't do enough. She doesn't burn consistently enough. She's in another scenario, same thing as Adela, where like she doesn't do anything unless she's shooting her fireworks, but it takes so long to get to her fireworks. And even when she's in her fireworks, you have to animation cancel to make the most of her fireworks. And then when you are animation canceling her fireworks, it just doesn't do anything. It's just not enough. Even if you're animation canceling, even if you're like maxing out her attack speed as much as like machinely and humanly possible, it's just not enough damage. And the burn isn't enough, the damage isn't enough. It's just every scenario where like you're using Ignis, it's just better to use somebody else who does more consistent damage and higher consistent damage. And that consistent damage is also more consistent. Ignis is just so bad. She's almost failing to fulfill her own role, but she does enough when her ultimate's online for me to say like, okay, you can bring her if you're like the biggest Ignis fan in the world. Like, sure, bring her if you want to, but She's just bad, man. Again, she's a burn unit, so if you want to use her, pair her with Thistle. Thistle's going to give her a lot of damage, but I wouldn't recommend Ignis. Just bring her if you like redheads, I guess. Speaking of redheads, let's take a look at Corin. Corin, I'm going to put her in great power. I just don't know where I'm putting her in great power. So let's talk about Corin for a second. Corin does two things. She does really good damage with her normal attacks, especially if you have her S1. If you have S1 Corin, she's like a very strong boss damage option. Very, very, very strong. But she also debuffs enemies. She shreds their armor, which gives her a very similar attack boost to as Cabernet, right? Like Corin provides a almost, in a lot of cases, actually is the same amount of damage that Cabernet provides. But the difference is that Cabernet gives that damage boost to her team, and Corin provides that damage boost against a single target. So Cabernet's support nature is restricted to the boss only, and does not help the rest of the team wave clear. But Corin does wave clear herself. So it creates this really weird scenario where Corin does everything. She debuffs, she wave clears, she has boss damage, she does it all. And it's really, really strong, really consistent, especially if like you pair her, if you get like a Jelena buff on a weekly, and you're able to give like Corin like max crit chance, like Corin, 100% crit Corin will absolutely destroy things without them needing to reveal their cores. She will absolutely corelessly clear a boss in BFL, in Dark Zone. Like, she has the damage, she has the utility. But with all that said, it's a lot to do for Corin to hit that dream scenario. Again, she's only providing support against the boss unit, and for her to work against the waves or to like DPS the boss, she has to be animation canceled. And animation canceling while you're doing everything else is a tall ask. So even though Corin is that good, She is that good. She is like tippy top of the meta on multiple meta defining teams. She is that good. The fact that you have to put like so much work into micromanaging Corin makes it difficult for her to be used. And I will say that like S0 Corin and S1 Corin are like two different beasts, and you really want S1 Corin. With the like S0 versus S1 in mind, and with like all the wave clear and like all the other concerns, I am putting Corin above Summer for sure. I think Corin is still better than Reforged Summer. And I think... yeah, I'm doing it. I'm putting her above Yao. Corin is used more often than Yao. Yao is like a boss damage, but like the best teams don't care about Yao. But the best teams in the physical space still care about Corin. So Corin is so close to being put in the tippy top of the meta. She is so close to being in this tier, but I'm putting her in great power. She's just so flexible. She does so much. She does boss damage. She does wave clear. She does debuffing. She literally does everything. It's just a lot of work and a lot of skill to get her to receive the maximum returns on what she provides. And it's a lot to ask for. In a lot of scenarios, you just want like an easier core breaker or an easier DPS unit, or like you just want an easier time. And for those reasons, I can see why people want to leave Corin behind. And like if you have other easier options, you should probably be using those other easier options, because Corin does require animation canceling to be effective in most scenarios. But great in story, great in mania training, great in ROTD, like incredible character, great in BFL, like she's good everywhere. If you have Corin, like she's good everywhere. It's insane. She's so good. Okay, moving on to Yan Yan. Yan Yan is another burn unit, and I'm going to put Yan Yan right above Joan. Yan Yan is more reliant on the other burn members, but Yan Yan has... oh, Yan Yan's so awkward, and it's such like an advanced conversation. There's going to be so many people who are like, Yan Yan's way better than you give her credit for. You're missing out on Yan Yan. Like, yes, I know Yan Yan's good. But the thing about Yan Yan is that Hestia and Yan Yan have anti-synergy. They both steal burns and return to do damage. I know Yan Yan does it better. I know if Yan Yan consumes those burns, then Yan Yan is doing more damage than if Hestia consumes those burns. But it still doesn't distract from the fact that Hestia is stealing those burns. Hestia is stealing damage from Yan Yan. So even though Yan Yan needs other burn units to be effective, those at least one of those best units, one of the best burn units, is taking away from Yan Yan and making it hard for Yan Yan to do her job. And even then, Yan Yan's only doing damage against the boss. And she doesn't have any way to like fuel herself. She has to use her ECB, and her ECB has limited uses. And it's very difficult for Yan Yan to have like that dream scenario where like you have a burn team, you've core broken the boss, you're burning all of those burns, you might even be animation canceling Yan Yan, you're doing all of this stuff. It's if you get that dream scenario, if the stars align from the sun all the way down to Neptune, including the Earth and your astrology sign, and it happens to be your birthday, and somebody has delivered like anonymous flowers to your front door, like Yan Yan is actually that good. But there's just so many scenarios where Yan Yan cannot get that perfect setup off, and she struggles to do her job. And because like there's so much anti-synergy within her own dedicated team, I'm not putting her any higher. That being said, Yan Yan is very good and is absolutely worth raising. And while she can pop off and like be absurd, you're not going to be able to reliably recreate or force that scenario where Yan Yan is as good as people want Yan Yan to be. She is worth raising, but she is not game-breakingly absurd as Yao is. Okay, it's just not the same. Okay, moving on to Darren. Oh boy, Darren, speaking of people who have fallen off, I talked about how Serpent was like the character who fell off the most. I gotta skip this song. It's not a live performance. Hold on, give me a second. VTuber? No, I'm not doing that. Okay, we can do this. Okay. The next up we have Darren. Darren used to be the best physical damage in the entire game, and she was like, there's like a season or two where Darren was like mandatory. Like you didn't have Darren and it was like, what the hell am I doing? But since then, even with Jelena and crew like joining the team and like boosting all these crit damage, Darren struggles to keep up. She's another one of these characters that has to do a lot of things to be turned on, right? Like Adela has to get 30 SP ult and then animation cancel before she can start doing stuff. Darren is in the same boat. She has to animation cancel and she has to get enough SP to ult before she can start doing stuff. And the fact is that her AoE is not big enough, and she doesn't come online fast enough to be as strong as she used to be. She used to just be able to like overlap every single wave and the boss at the same time and just absolutely destroy every single BFL boss that came around. Nowadays, no. She has to choose between the waves or the boss, and her auto attacks aren't doing enough, and her ECB isn't like one-shotting the BFL boss from full HP, and it's not enough. I'm gonna put her in worth raising above Serpent. She is worse than Mantis, even in like perfect scenarios. Like Mantis is used in like max score chasing clears. I don't think Darren's ever used in max score chasing clears. It's so much to ask for Darren to have that perfect scenario. Even if you do get perfect scenario, she's worth raising. I've never been a fan of Darren, to be clear. Like I would never use Darren nowadays because I don't like Darren, and I don't have to use Darren anymore, so I won't. But she's fallen from grace pretty heavily, and she's another one of these characters that has like this mix of skill damage and this mix of like normal attack damage that makes it very hard to like support around. And even in like her dedicated crit like archetype, where like she can make use of Jelena, Darren's just not keeping up with the rest of the field. And a lot of that has to do with her AoE, and a lot of that has to do with her ECP, like no longer one-shots the bosses. Like bosses have a ton of HP nowadays. Darren doesn't keep up. Okay, next up we have, let's do another Endura. I forget this guy's name. He came out with Stargazer, but he is an Endura who provides shields and a little bit of healing if you have his ECP unlocked. It's okay. If you If you want an Enduro that can provide shields and a little bit of healing, sure. But there's just so many other characters, so many other Enduras, so many other like Furies that with a Bulwark crime brand that does his job but better. If you are a fan of him and you want to use him, go ahead, but know that like better options exist, both offensively and defensively. Better options are out there. Okay, next up, let's mix it up a little bit. Let's talk about one of the dedicated teams. Let's talk about the best magical team. This should be obvious. Everybody should know what the best magical team is. I've got 3 Jelenas over here ready and rolling because Jelena goes anywhere and everywhere on this tier list. The best magical team is Crit Arcana, to a surprise of nobody. Crit Arcana is just absolutely ridiculous. We even have a second LL because she goes on this team too. Even if you don't have blue, this is still the best magical team. Throw Woohoo Hanzi in there, throw Hestia in there, throw any Arcana in there, and this is the best magical team out there. There's just no competing with it. Preferably your last 2 slots are also Arcanas, so that you can make the most out of Yugo and her ECP. But even if these last 2 slots aren't Arcanas, Blue and crew is just so strong that they can brute force and beat the opposition. This team is just so good. It's so consistent. Blue core breaks. She clears the waves. She kills the boss all in the same cast, and she ults. Her ult cost is 15 SP. So like one cast of LL is giving Blue more than an entire ult. And it's just insane how cheap her ult is, how good her ult is, and how versatile her ult is, how much damage her ult does. And the best thing about Voltaire Blue is that she scales with attack. She scales with skill damage. She scales with, in this composition, crit. She scales with attack speed. Like every possible thing that Blue could scale with, she does scale with. And what that does is that she's multiplying her damage from a lot of different sources, right? Like she's doing 30% more attack. Okay, cool. But she's also critting, and that crit is also being boosted by the 30% attack. Okay, now she has attack speed, which makes more of that 30% attack, and it makes more of the crit. And now she has skill damage, which is boosted by the attack, which is boosted by the crit, which is boosted by the attack speed. And there's just so many sources of damage that Blue can obtain, and each different source of damage is making the other damage sources even stronger. And this team just absolutely destroys everything, making use of Blue's really cheap core-breaking, damage-dealing, wave-clearing, boss-killing ultimate. That there's really no competition. Like no other magical team is even close to Arcane Crit right now. Like 1 month ago, no team was close to this, but there's competition nowadays with the Reforges. That this team actually does have like some competition on the physical side, but on the magical side, nothing comes even close. This is the best option, bar none. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Jane. Oh, I really like Jane. Jane's worth raising. She does everything that Langley does, but better. Better than Serpent. I said it. She's better than Serpent. Might actually be better than Darren, honestly. If you put her up here above Darren, then I don't blame you. In fact, I'm doing it. Yeah, I'm going to put Jane right there. Jane is really good. She wave clears. That's Jane's whole thing. She just wave clears. But, hey, if you like wave clear, then that's your girl. She's almost always used in ROTD. She can be used in story very easily. And it's very easy to play Jane. And Jane does a lot without you even have to think about her. She does struggle for crime brand options. She doesn't have that many good crime brands. But she does an absurd amount of damage very consistently. And if you need to do an absurd amount of AoE damage very consistently, then she's a great option. The only time you wouldn't use Jane is against bosses. And Jane doesn't do anything against bosses, but she does destroy everything else without even, like, you don't even have to think about her. You just put her on the field and you forget that she's there and she does her job. It's really good. But again, she doesn't do anything against bosses. She struggles for crime brand options. It could be better, but she's really good. She's really, really good, especially if you want like a casual ROTD clear, like really, really good. I'm going to go ahead and grab another A rank real quick, because this one fits in the same category. Let's talk about Pine. Pine and Jane are almost the same character. Pine does the same thing Jane does. She does AoE to like multiple targets. She hits multiple targets coming out of a wave. She's not used against bosses, but she's incredibly good against waves. I will say that I think Jane is better, or Pine is better than Jane. But Pine does require you to play around her a bit more. She might need to empower her too. She needs you to actually pay attention on when to use her ult to make sure her ult is still active. But Pine core breaks one, and like let's say 2,000 corruptors have one core and they're all making a mad dash toward your chief, and you have to core break all 2,000 corruptors. Pine does it. Pine will core break 2,000 one core corruptors coming at you. And on like these ROTD stages, on these story stages, on these mania trading stages, just throwing the Pine drone out there and like instantly deleting every one core elite for them even daring to exist, and like doing half the damage to like the entire wave at the same time. It's just incredible. It's very consistent. It's very good. And if you are looking at ROTD, Pine and Jane are like your two best friends. They are like the easiest recommendations for ROTD. Just insanely good characters at clearing waves, not really used against bosses. Pine can be used in bosses more so than Jane. If you're having like difficulties like core breaking the wave that's near the boss, and like you want a little bit of help with the boss, like there's reasons to use Pine in BFL. There's no reason to use Jane in BFL, but there are reasons to use Pine in BFL. But I still wouldn't really recommend her, and I would leave her for the wave-based stages, all the same. Okay, let's move on to Eve. Eve used to be in the worth raising category. Since then, Eve has been seeing more and more use. Summons are getting better and better and more widespread, and she is getting better and better at buffing those summons, especially when other people can't buff those summons. I'm looking at you, Hypatia. You. God, I love Hypatia, but Hypatia struggles to be buffed, and Eve still buffs her. Reforged Summer also receives buffs from Eve. Reforged Summer is all about her drones, and Eve buffs all of those drones. When 11 gets her Reforge, Eve is obviously going to be 11's best partner, because there's going to be like 20 hands on the field. It's absurd how good the Reforged Summer is. Reforged 11 is. If we're looking at... Oh my god, there's another summoner that I can't think of right now. But anybody who summons, Eve is going to be top tier. And it's not even close to like I am absolutely amazed. You put Summer on the field, and she like does good. And then you put Summer and Eve on the field, and all of a sudden Summer is like deleting everything. I don't understand just like how good Eve truly is just by existing on the field. And even like providing like a body, or like helping with the wave clear, or like providing more damage with the fear box, or like stalling out a bit with the fear box. Like Eve does so many things, most of which are invisible, but they're all so really good. And I'm not going to put her in tippy top of the meta used in multiple teams. She is very close to it. And I think, she's definitely up here in like these top 5. Not as good as Corin. It's a conversation of whether or not she's better than Yao. It's a conversation of whether or not she's better than Thistle, and it's a conversation of whether or not she's better than Summer. I do think that she's better than Angel right now, and I say that as like a massive Angel fan. I'm going to go ahead and put her right there just because I know at least she's better than Angel. But Summer is like Eve is a really good support on every summon team, and she might dethrone Crit Arcana when 11's Reforged comes around. I don't know yet. But she's never going to be in this tippy top of the meta, use on multiple meta defining teams, because she only works with summons, okay? So the highest that she can achieve is like one of these dedicated teams that's competing for the best team in the game, or she can be down here in Great Power. It's the only places that Eve can exist, and right now she's existing within Great Power because she is, bar none, the best support on every single team that uses summons. We're talking Summer, we're talking 11, we're talking Hypatia, and anybody else who summons that I can't think of off the top of my head. But oh, I'm skipping this song. This song's weird. But yeah, great character. Eve is great. Use her. Have fun. She doesn't have to do anything. She just kind of exists and does her job by existing. Okay, let's talk about Wendy. Wendy is kind of a joke. I'm going to say she's just barely better than Picassi. Picassi and Wendy kind of do the same thing. They just wave clear. And there's never a situation where it's like, oh, I need to use Wendy this stage. I need the wave clear. If that's what you're thinking, just use Pine or Jane. Like, they just do what Wendy does, do it better and, like, safer. And, like, without spending an absurd amount of SP. But if you like Wendy and you're like, I want to use Wendy, and you bring her to, like, a story stage, or you bring her to ROTD, or you bring her to Mania training, like, you're not going to be too upset about it. She wave clears, and there's better wave clear options, like much better wave clear options. But if you are like having fun playing around and you're like, I want to wave clear, Wendy's good. Wendy will wave clear for you. Just don't expect anything more. Like, don't bring her to a boss. Don't bring her to any like timed content. Don't bring her to anything serious. If you're looking to have fun, Wendy's pretty fun. Okay, next up is Irene. Irene's worth raising. I just don't know where in this category she's going to be. She's going to be yeah, right above Serpent. Oh, Irene's really strong. The problem that Irene has is that her ultimate costs 40 SP, which is like the highest SP cost in the game. I don't think there's anybody that's above a 40 SP cost. And she has like some ways to mitigate that. She has like her ability to stay next to the chief and generate chief energy, which is really strong and shouldn't be overlooked. But at the end of the day, there's just better, stronger magic options out there nowadays. And even though she does generate chief energy, there's other centers who provide stronger buffs by existing than Irene does. Like, yeah, Irene does give you chief energy just by existing, but Eve does like everything just by existing. So while Irene is really good or passable as a support unit, there's just other people who do her job better. There's other Arcanas that do her damage for cheaper. Like, there's never a time where you're going to use Irene over blue. That's just never going to happen. And even in the situations where it's like you want to use Irene's AoE or like burst damage or boss damage or wave clear, like 11's better in all those scenarios. And 11 like provides similar levels of support. Like Irene provides chief energy, but 11 provides core break and fears. And it's just 11's much more complete than Irene is. But Irene herself is still worth raising. She's not absurd. She's not incredible. She used to be the best. She's no longer the best. But I do think she's better than Serpent nowadays, just because like she does do something for the team, whereas Serpent's like entirely like Serpent. But worth raising, not like meta defining or game breaking or anything like that. There's better options. Okay. Speaking of better options, I've been beating around the bush with Kate for a little bit. Let's go ahead and grab her. Kate is great power. I'm throwing up there. Kate is up there in great power. She's there's so many teams that want her nowadays. She's been seeing more and more play on more and more teams, like the Arcane Crit team, like on Summon teams, like on Eve teams. It turns out that having this core breaker that's passively buffs the team's damage, okay, Raven and Kate, core breakers that passively buff the team's damage, it's a really good role to have, especially like when more and more magic damage centers are coming to the forefront. These centers are still seeing play because they're supporting the strongest centers at the time. Skipping this song, it's way too aggressive. But where Hecate sort of shines is that she has her summon. And we're seeing more and more like the necessity for this summon in some cases, or just like the ease, like how easy Hecate is to play. Even like maybe that alone is enough. But she breaks 2 cores, she passively buffs the team's damage, and in like the scenarios where her summon is good, her summon's able to hold down a wave and like keep them grouped for your other Arcanas, or it's able to like stop an absurd amount of incoming damage. Because we are seeing stages that are like providing more offensive pressure onto the team, and we need something to like stem the tide of damage before, because like centers are dying before cores are revealed in BFL stages. It's absurd. But Hecate is just, she's really good. She just kind of sits there and does her job by existing. You'll see cores pop up, and like you look over at Hecate, and sure enough, her ult's ready because you haven't done anything with Hecate. She's just sitting there waiting for you to use her. And when you look over, like sure enough, she's ready. And then you have the nightmare to like hold off enemies, and it's just a really strong, good character that, because of how supportive she is, she's remaining like equally important as harder and harder content is being released, because she's just providing better and better support to the strongest sinners. Really strong character, better than these other mages down here. I'm sorry, I love you, but until you get your Reforged, Gade's better. Sorry. Okay, next up, Shalom. Shalom used to be in the Unrivaled tier. She can no longer be in the Unrivaled tier because there is no Unrivaled tier. And she is not at the tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams because she's not that kind of support unit. She is a wave clear boss damage hybrid who's very flexible and very splashable. I'll say that about Shalom. She is very, very, very flexible. And you'll use her on a lot of stages where you're just not going to use anybody else. And the fact that she is so flexible and so splashable really, really raises her value in a lot of scenarios. I am going to say that she is slightly better than Yao. I do not think she is as good as Corin. I think Corin's better than Shalom right now. But Shalom is very good. She's very solid. She does a lot of damage. She does good wave clear. She does good boss damage. But if we're talking about like what Shalom does versus what Corin does, I think Corin does the same thing but better. Corin provides that same amount of boss damage. She provides the same amount of wave clear. She provides some core break. She provides some debuffing. Like they both do very similar things in different ways. But I think Corin does her job better than Shalom. And I think Corin has higher highs because Corin can be like animation canceled to do more damage, while Shalom, like if she wants to do more damage, she has to compete directly with like better ult spammers, and it's very hard for Shalom to compete with Blue. Like Blue does everything that Shalom does, while there's nobody that really does everything that Corin does. But Blue absolutely does everything Corin does, and you don't, or sorry, Blue does everything that Shalom does, and you don't really need Shalom if you have Blue. She used to be the best center in the game. She used to be like game breaking, like actually like if you had her, you just auto won BFL like Dark Zone stages. She just soloed everything. She was actually that good. Nowadays, she's not keeping up as much as she used to. Okay. Let's move on to oh man, I forget her name. Horo. Horo's really trash. really, really trash. Horo is in desperate need for a Reforge. She wants to be a DPS. She wants to be a tank. She wants to be a core breaker. She wants to be a wave clearer. She wants to be like 8 things. And the only thing that she's good at is she's a body. She's good at being a body. She's not even good at core breaking. Her SP cost is so high for what it does. I'm gonna put her like right above Hella, or like right below Hella maybe. She's somewhere in this mix of like bodies that don't do anything, and she's either higher or lower based on like these two are better bodies, but Horo has core breaking. So it's really like, do you want the body or do you want the core breaking? And I think in a lot of scenarios, like the core breaking is ultimately going to be better. But at the same time, like if I bring Horo and she's not a good enough body, then why would I bring Horo if I could just bring Hella? So I'm going to put her in the middle as like a middle ground, because Hella and 99 are better bodies, but Horo can at least do core breaking. So it's a matter of like, what do you need, right? But ultimately, just if you're a fan of material, nothing crazy, nothing absurd. Owo. Owo is massively overrated by the community. Oh my god, this character is not that good. They're like, oh, her ECB is insane. Okay, Thistle's ECB is better. Thistle's ECB is better than Owo's. It's like, who cares? Owo can break 2 cores. Can break 2 cores. Okay, so can Thistle. Thistle can also break 2 cores. Owo provides 40% crit. Yeah, if you're standing in like very specific scenarios and like dancing around this summon that can die easily and like you're doing all this extra nonsense, and you're restricted to like these certain tiles in a circle around OO. Like, it's so hard to reach the maximum value that OO can reach. It's just so difficult to get her dream scenario, and it's so difficult to play around all of her positional and all of her buffs and everything that she can do, and it's so hard to make maximum use of all the buffs she provides. That being said, she's still good. Worse than tied for more. More is better. And yes, Thistle is better than OO. I said it. Thistle's better than OO. She has a better ECB. Her core breaking is easier, her core breaking is cheaper, and she's mandatory on burn teams. Like, Thistle is just better than OO, and you will not get me to change my mind. But that was good. Just massively overrated by the community. Just massively overrated by the community. She's good. Don't let me dissuade you from that. She's good. Just, oh my god, Moore and Yugo are so much better. Okay, moving on, we have, let's do Ruleka. Ruleka is a reticle that does some damage. Ignis tier, I'm gonna say Ignis tier. She's probably better. She might actually be higher, like somewhere up here above the Enduras, but like, all of Ruleka's damage is RNG, and it's like so much to play around, and it's so much to think about, and it's just, she used to be used in Dark Zone back when, like, Season 0 of Dark Zone, where reticles had 100% armor pin, and reticles could be used anywhere, even like magic stages. That was like the seasonal buff, is that reticles like had true damage. But even then, she was like worse than other options. She was worse than Priscilla, and Ruleka really struggled. And there's really no reason to ever use Ruleka when you can use stronger reticles like Jane and Pine, or even Priscilla. And it's just, if you're fan material, she's not strong enough. Okay, Hypatia. Oh boy, Hypatia. There are a lot of players who are like, Hypatia's good, and there's a lot of players who are like, Hypatia is the worst character they ever released. Which, the second one is really extreme. The problem with Hypatia is that while all the other characters can get consistent buffs from like these top tier supports, Hypatia really struggles to receive buffs from the top tier supports. And like, Hypatia and Infer do not work, because what happens is that summons will snapshot the power of their summoner when the summon is summoned. Okay? So like, let's take 11. Like, let's say 11 is buffed by literally all 5 of these. Like, this is your team. You put LL onto 11. You give Shin ult to 11. You give Lady Pearl stage and ECB to 11. You give Cabernet to 11. You give Infer to 11. And then you summon all of 11's hands. 11's hands have the buffs from all 5 of these units, and she just absolutely shreds things. I forgot where I put 11 on this tier list, and I shouldn't have moved her. It was like right here, right? Like right below Mantis. I'm gonna pretend like that's where it was. Hopefully that's where it was. But that's what 11 can do. 11 takes all of those buffs and multiplies it to all of her hands. Hypatia can't do that. If you do that same thing with Hypatia, you try to give her the LL buff, you try to give her the Shin buff, you try to give her the Lady Pearl buff, you try to give her Cabernet and Infer, none of it works. Because Hypatia summons her summon at the very start of the stage and cannot re-summon her summon. So, Hypatia is only able to be buffed by effects that happen at the start of the stage. Now this does include Lady Pearl. Lady Pearl stage only. Not her ECB or anything, but just Lady Pearl stage can buff Hypatia. Eve can buff Hypatia. Hecate can kind of buff Hypatia by reducing other people's magic resist. Summer can buff Hypatia, like Reforged Summer, if you go the support Summer route, can buff Hypatia by making enemies take more summon damage and more normal attack damage. Again, this is not buffing Hypatia, this is making the opponents weaker. And you can do that all day. But in terms of like making Hypatia stronger, the only 2 things you can do are Eve and Lady Pearl. And even then, Lady Pearl ECB doesn't work, it's just the stage. So Hypatia really struggles to have like a support core that allows her to get damage buffs, whereas like everybody else can get support from Jelena, they can get support from LL, they can get support from Infer, they can get support from Cabernet and Shen and all these others. Hypatia can't, and it really limits the power that she has. So at the end of the day, considering all of that, she's not nearly as bad as like the haters make her out to be. I'm going to put her right below Jane and Pine. She's good enough. She has consistent auto attack damage on like at like maximum range for these ROTD and like story and mania training stages, and she does good enough damage against bosses considering her ECB, especially if you have her ECB 3. Her ECB 3 is like absurdly strong. Just make sure that when you're fighting bosses, the way Hypatia's ult works is very unique. It's 3 tiles, and all 3 tiles do damage, okay? So if you hit the boss with like one of the 3 tiles, you lost out on 2/3 of the damage. Okay, all 3 tiles have to hit the same target. But then, even when all 3 tiles hit the same target, if there are multiple targets on a singular tile, the damage of that tile is split up amongst all targets on that tile. So it's this AoE ability that does single target damage. I hate when they do that. It limits the character's power so much. So you really want to hit like an unobstructed part of the boss. You do not want to wave clear with Hypatia's ult because you are missing out on so much damage, because that damage is, you're either missing the boss by like not hitting it with all 3 tiles, or you're sharing damage between the waves in the boss by having that damage be split amongst multiple targets. So it's a really confusing ultimate that can trip up a lot of players, and it's a really confusing, you can't buff Hypatia, that will also confuse a lot of players. But if you know what you're doing around Hypatia and you play around her well, she is worth raising because she does provide a lot of consistency in both wave clear and boss damage. But ultimately there's stronger options that can receive buffs from the stronger supports. So she's okay, she's worth raising, not amazing. Okay, let's take a look at Macchiato. Macchiato is a healer who is absolutely worth raising. Ooh boy, I don't really know how to put healers on this list, but it's hard to evaluate, like, okay, how does a healer compare to 11? How does a healer compare to Irene? How does a healer compare to Langley? Right, that's a really hard conversation to have. But at the end of the day, every team is going to need a healer, and teams only need one healer. So when looking at that context, Macchiato is absolutely worth raising. She will heal and you will not have any problems with her healing. She does not keep up with the AoE healers like Duo and Hamill or Shen, but the fact that she heals is more than enough to keep her within worth raising. And I'm not even going to try and have the discussion between like, is a healer better than vanilla? I'm not even going to try to have that conversation. I'm just going to say that she's a healer and she's worth raising. Okay, it's every other center and then healers at the bottom of the tier. Just, I'm not going to try and have that conversation of like, how good is a healer relative to literally anybody else. It's way too complicated. Okay, let's mix up the order a little bit more. Let's go ahead and talk about... no, let's just go ahead and talk about Rahu. Rahu is if you're a fan material. Rahu is slightly better than Adela. So, Rahu's an Enduro that blocks 2. And she also has a lot of really offensive characteristics and like HP drain and all this other stuff. And she's close to being good. The biggest problem about Rahu is that all of her damage, she's a damage dealer. All of her damage scales off of her attack. Doesn't scale off her defense, doesn't scale off her HP, it scales off her attack. And Rahu has really low base attack because she's an Enduro. So let's say the boss has 350 defense. Well, most of the DPS characters will have like 700 attack, right? And 700 attack minus 350 defense, they have effectively 350 attack. Okay, that's how the math works in PtN. Defense is a flat damage reduction, and all of your multipliers are applied after the flat damage reduction. Okay, so it doesn't matter if you're doing 10,000% or 2%. You're always going to multiply that by the effective attack at the end of the day. And If the opponent has 350 defense, you have 700 attack, you have effectively 350 defense. Or, sorry, 350 attack. Rahu's attack is closer to 450. It's 300 lower than like Corin and Shalom and others. It's really, really low. So when we're talking about these high defense targets, Rahu goes down to a 100 effective attack. 100 compared to 350, right? And the effective attack is just so low that she doesn't do anything. And unless she's like fighting 0 defense targets like waves or like runners or some other nonsense in story or in ROTD or something, Rahu's just not going to do any damage. She can only do damage to targets with like 0 defense. And she absolutely needs a Reforged that will let her fight off her HP. The second they make a Rahu Reforged that lets her scale off of HP, I am wailing the fuck out and I am getting an S5 Rahu, okay? I'm doing it. The second they make her scale off of HP. This is how you get my money, Anzo, okay? You listening? Make Rahu scale with HP. I will wail for her. I will make her S5. You have my guarantee right now. But until that happens, Rahu is just if you're fan category. She tanks very well, and she has like some wave clear on these 0 defense waves, but she's mostly an Endura that's very hard to kill. I will say that Rahu is harder to kill than these other Enduras, especially in like Mania training. If you get like the Rahu buff, and you like really need to stall out the boss's like absurd damage, Rahu's like one of the best options for that because her Mania training buff is just absurdly good. But again, she's just a body that can like clear 0 defense waves if needed. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about Priscilla. We already talked about Ruleka, and Ruleka and Priscilla kind of fight for the same role. They do it in a different way. I will say that Priscilla is better, and I think she is better. She's almost better than EMP. Maybe she is better. I'm going to say she is better than EMP because Priscilla goes into teams better. Now, Priscilla, she has the same problem with Irene, where Priscilla's ult cost is like 40 or something ridiculous like that. And while Priscilla is very good during that ultimate, she still has to wait for that ultimate. And it's usually not worth bringing Priscilla because that cast takes way too long to get off. Okay, Priscilla used to have really good team comps, really cool dedicated team comps with Kokolik. Kokolik is this like attack speed enabler where anybody who attacks really fast, Kokolik would do damage every time they did damage. And it made like Priscilla and Matilda and Lady Pearl very strong because Lady Pearl, Priscilla, and Matilda attacked very fast, and it let Kokolik attack very, very fast. Nowadays, Kokolik isn't doing enough damage to really make the team worthwhile, and that dedicated team no longer exists. If you want to see what that team used to be capable of, I highly recommend it. I have like an entire playlist of it on my channel. It's called Kokolik Shows Her True Power. So just like search Kokolik Shows Her True Power, and you will see Kokolik, Matilda, Priscilla, and Lady Pearl, and even Summer, like absolutely popping off and defeating Dark Zone. It was so much fun, but Kokolik's just not strong enough nowadays and doesn't really keep up. And because of that, Priscilla really struggles, really suffers from it. Her dedicated team is no longer her dedicated team, and now she's just like a high damage DPS unit every 40 SP or so. She's good, but I wouldn't really bring her in any scenario. In fact, I can't remember the last time I brought Priscilla. It's been a hot second because she doesn't do much nowadays. Speaking of which, let's talk about Kokolik. I already talked about all the Kokolik stuff. If you skip straight to Kokolik, rewind like 30 seconds, and you'll hear me talk about Kokolik a ton. Kokolik used to be really, really good in her dedicated attack speed team comp. Nowadays, she's like Rahu, where she is sitting there waiting desperately for her Reforge, because she has an amazing kit, but she does not keep up. She really does struggle to keep up. So with that struggling to keep up in mind, I am going to put her in Worth Racing. I'm going to put her above Joan. Why not? Kokolik does both healing and damage, and she can do some damage, with her ECB, especially if it's an attack speed comp. But ultimately, like, she is waiting for her Reforged to return to the forefront of the meta. She used to be at the forefront of the meta in the attack speed team comp with Lady Pearl, Matilda, and Priscilla, but that team doesn't do enough damage to exist anymore. And Koklik is now just worth raising as a healer who does some damage. If you are using Priscilla in that team comp, make sure that you I'm going to skip the rest of the song. Just make sure that you're using Koklik with Infer and not Cabernet. Koklik does true damage, and true damage dealers scale better with Infer than they do Cabernet. That's very specific to true damage dealers and people with attack. Speaking of which, same thing with Corin. Corin has like 50% attack built into her base kit, and because she already has so much attack being given to her freely, getting more attack from Cabernet doesn't really do much. So Corin likes Infer and Jelena much more than she likes Cabernet. Cabernet's kind of useless with Corin. So just keep that in mind. Like, there are certain characters that really do like Infer more than they like Cabernet. Okay, next up, let's talk about Gekka Bajin. Gekka Bajin is a core breaker who does literally nothing else. She has like damage amp somewhere on like her ECB or something. It doesn't matter. The only thing that Gekka Bajin does is break 2 cores. And as a 2-core breaker, she is, if you're a fan material, she is better. She is better than Adela. Because at least Gekka Bajin can reliably break 4 cores. There are times where I have brought Gekka Bajin to Tide of Ashes, where I have brought Gekka Bajin to Dark Zone, I have brought her to BFL, I have brought her to Mania Training and Story and all these other places because Gekka Bajin is such a reliable character to break 4 cores. She has a 2-core break that stacks 2 times. It is very good. If your team has no core breakers, you are running like 5 units, you are like a summer comp that runs like Summer and Eve and Lady Pearl and Jelena and like a 5th person who doesn't break cores, Gekka Bajin is your girl. She will absolutely break so many cores so fast that you are like, damn, why am I not using her more? And then you realize she doesn't do anything else. That's all she does is break 4 cores. And it's good. Like, it's good. It's solid. But like, there's better options. You can bring Donald, or you can bring Angel, or you can bring like a billion other people who can still break 4 cores, but they'll do it in much more efficient or much stronger ways than what Gekka Bajin can do. So she's worth raising. She's good. I use her all the time, but there's better options out there. Okay, speaking of better options out there, oh boy, Crash, you are. I don't even think a Reforged can save you. Like, if they make a Crash Reforged, I'm gonna roll my eyes because I'm gonna wish that it went to somebody better. Crash is a failure from a numerical and a theoretical standpoint. Good God, I don't know what they were thinking with her. She wants to stay in stealth to get damage to use her ultimate. But the whole idea of like people who damage with their ultimate is that they can spam their ultimate like 15 times in 1 second. And like that's how Blue does so much damage, right? Blue uses her ult like legitimately 6 times in 3 seconds. And Blue just does insane damage and breaks all the cores and everything. You try to do that same thing with Crash and you're trolling. She still breaks a core. She has like the same range as Blue does, like the same effective AoE. But like for Crash to get her bonuses, she has to sit in stealth for like 10 seconds. She's not allowed to attack. She's not allowed to block anything. She's not allowed to do anything. She just sits there and waits. And even if... Oh, the most infuriating part about Crash is that let's say you put her in stealth somewhere, right? And you've waited 10 seconds and you are ready to use her ultimate. You finally found a time where Crash ultimate matters. Turns out you can't move Crash then ult. Crash has to turn invisible in the spot you plan to use your ult from 10 seconds later. You have to like pre-plan with Crash so hard to get no returns. No returns whatsoever. She's not even auto-attacking. She's just sitting there doing literally nothing. You could just run 5 people and have just as good a performance as with Crash on your team. Just such an absolute failure of a sinner from a numerical and a theoretical standpoint that I don't even think a Reforged is good enough to save her. Still, she's better than Christina, because Christina is just such a fucking disappointment. So disappointing. Okay, Nino! Better topics, better sitters. Nino is good. she's an Endura that blocks 2 and does damage based off her defense, although even though she does damage based off her defense, she doesn't do any damage. So she's really just an Endura that blocks 2 and has like okay clear against like really weak trash mobs. But don't expect her to do much. She's just an Endura who blocks 2. And if you need an Endura that blocks 2, if you're a fan of Nino, she does great. She, like, Endura that blocks 2, what more do you want? Okay, Stargazer. Oh boy, Stargazer. Stargazer's getting a Reforge. And she really needs that Reforge. Stargazer might actually be up here in the best magical team with her Reforge, because Stargazer Reforge is coming alongside 11's Reforge. And 11 and Stargazer and Eve might like steal the best magical team comp. I haven't tested it yet, so I can't say for certain. But there's going to be a really strong dedicated summon team right around the corner with 11 Stargazer and Eve. That being said, Stargazer right now is way too weak. Well, you know what? Better than Crash. Stargazer's way too weak. She can't do anything to like dump her damage. It's not worth like trying to get her summons to explode. Her summons like attack so slowly. Her summons don't do any damage. She can't animation cancel. She can't ult spam. She can't do anything to like dump damage on the field. She's just sitting there waiting, hoping that the enemies are somehow weak enough to die to her orbs. But her orbs can be destroyed. Her orbs can't move. Her orbs... There's just so many downsides and so little upsides that Stargazer really does fail to properly fulfill her own role. That being said, she will fulfill her own role with her Reforge. And she, unlike Crash, she is a good character from like a theoretical level. Her numbers are just too low, and she's not allowed to move her orbs. Like if she was allowed to move her orbs, then like she'd be able to do something. She'd be able to like reposition and adapt to the stage. But as of right now, like, she has to put her orbs in such awkward positions to, like, make use of them. And even in those awkward positions, they might be really vulnerable. And it's just so hard to, like, squeeze value out of Stargazer. And even when you do squeeze value out of Stargazer, she's just so weak that it usually doesn't matter. So, really weak character. She currently fails to properly fulfill her own role, but she will be good with her Reforge. Will be. Okay, next up, let's talk about Dove. Dove is really good. Dove is worth raising. Dove is... what, better than Irene? Yeah, Dove is insane. Dove provides magic damage. She might actually be, like, in great power. Oh boy. No, I can't say that. She's not better than Vanilla. Dove is really good, and she, like, competes with Hecate. That being said, Hecate is better, but Dove provides the magic penetration that Hecate provides, and Dove is an Endura who blocks 2, and she's not really reliant on her crime brands, so she can run whatever crime brand she wants, and she also provides core breaking support. But at the end of the day, she's really good on magic damage teams. She's better on magic damage teams because obviously she provides the magic penetration. But and I thought she was, there's like I saw like 2-3 months where I thought she was like great power, like top of the tier, because there's just so many things that she could do that other characters couldn't do. But I don't know. Hecate is easier to play. Dove, you have to like jump through some hoops with the ECB. You have to plan stuff out. You have to have her ultimate ready. You have to run specific crime brands. You have to do a bunch of stuff. And at the end of the day, Yugo's probably just better on these magic resistance teams, or on these magic teams anyways. Yugo's just so good. Like even if you're not using the crit, Yugo's providing all that skill damage, and Yugo's just like absolutely popping off in all the scenarios that Dove wants to do her thing. And Dove is still good if you want to use Dove. Like I think she's worth raising. I think she's great, but she's got competition in Hecate and Yugo, and her competition is much easier to play, and in a lot of cases just ultimately more effective as well. So like really good character, but it's just outshined by like a free option and Yugo, who is like a meta-defining option. So it's hard to find a scenario where Dove is wanting to be used. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next S rank. Etti. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have no idea how good Reforged Etti is. Zero clue. I have absolutely zero clue how good Reforged Etti is. I have not seen any gameplay. I don't have the materials to test it myself. I am flying blind here. Okay, so in my flying blind, how good is a level 90 Reforged Etti? From what I've heard described to me, she's like down here. Great power. You can put her in the best magical team if you want to, but like, Etti's problems still remain, where she has this AoE ultimate, like AoE targeting, but all the damage is single target. Just, God, I hate that mechanic. It's such a bad mechanic. It's so confusing to players too, because they see like Etti's massive AoE and they're like, oh, I'm going to destroy this wave, and then it kills like one target because every single missile hits like one target. She only dealt damage to a single target despite like hovering over 20. And oh, it's just not good. It's so awkward to play around. Etti doesn't provide any core break. Her support nature is very difficult to play around. It's better with the Reforged because you can pick up the gems instantly and you can guarantee what color the gems are going to be. But even then, like, the gems are difficult to play around. And even after the Reforge, anytime you want to use Etti, it's just better to use blue. Blue still has a cheaper ultimate. Her ultimate still hits harder. Her ultimate still core breaks. But Etti is a respectable DPS option now. If you want to force Etti, you can force Etti. And she has good damage. I'm honestly not sure if she's great power worth raising. She's somewhere down here, right? She's somewhere in great power worth raising because she's an Arcana who does like respectable amount of damage nowadays. Like more damage than 11 and Hypatia and Irene for sure. But I don't know exactly how strong. So I'm going to put her at the bottom with great power. Help me in the comments. Tell me where she's supposed to be, because honestly, I'm flying blind here, okay? If you have her Reforged, if you have tested her in the Arcane Crit team, let me know. Tell me your thoughts about her. People check down in the comments. They probably know better about Etti than I do right now. Read over what they're saying. Make sure it makes sense. If they're saying like Etti's stronger than blue, then maybe you don't believe that one. But Etti's good. Okay, next up, let's go with KK. KK is an Endura who blocks 2, and that's all she does. She's joining the rest of the team with Enduras that block 2. You'll notice that there's a band in here in the If You're a Fan category, which is consisting of Enduras who block 2. And that's really all that Enduras have to do to be If You're a Fan category. And if you're a fan of KK and you want to bring an Endura who can block 2, well, congratulations, KK is an Endura who can block 2. That's all she does. Okay, moving on. Oak also got a Reforge, and I have also not seen much testing of her, and I have not done, or no, she is receiving a Reforge. Oak has not received her Reforge yet. Okay, so I still have time to evaluate her. Sorry. Oak is getting a Reforge. I have not seen enough of that Reforge to make a confident opinion about it, but also, as with Stargazer and 11, I am not going based off of future Reforges, only current Reforges. So currently, Oak is down here at like the bottom of If You're a Fan. She's like better than Priscilla. Oak, man, I actually used Oak as my primary damage dealer in Season 0 of Dark Zone. She was like my carry. Maybe it was Season 1 of Dark Zone, early season of Dark Zone. I had like an Oak carry where she did 75% of the damage. That was the only reason I beat the stage, was because I had Oak. That being said, Oak is kind of awful. Another one of these sinners who does like damage over time. If you use her ECB, it's damage over time because you have to wait for multiple shots to land. If you're using her ultimate, it's damage over time because she has to like spin the full duration. It's not like you can like do the first frame of the spin and then click the next ult and do the first frame of the spin. You have to let the full spin play out, let the next full spin play out, and let the next full spin play out. And ultimately, she's just like, she's an okay wave clear, but there's better wave clear options. And as of right now, there's like no reason to click her ECB. I understand her Reforge is making her ECB do like some crazy things, and like actually good ECB. So if you like that sniper infinite range playstyle, like Oak will be a sniper with infinite range and like play like Caitlyn from League of Legends or something like that, right? It's gonna be good, but from what I understand, it's not gonna be meta defining either. So Oak is if you're fan category, and even with her Reforge, even if she does like reach these great powers, like you're going to have to be a fan if you want to invest Reforged materials into Oak. So I wouldn't worry about Oak unless you're like a super Oak fan. But if you are an Oak fan, you have things to look forward to because she will like be good with her Reforge. And even now, she's like a good weight clear. But there's better options, even in like these A ranks. Like A rank Jane right now is better than Oak. A rank Pine is better than Oak. It's just competition's pretty fierce. Okay, next up, Dudu. Oh my god, I hate this girl. So a few things to talk about here. Dudu is a healer, and she has AoE healing, kind of, but and she has damage buffs. So you'd think like a healing damage buffer like Shen, that Dudu would like reach those potentials. Damn, Dudu is so awkward to play, man. Those attack buffs are not easy to get, and the healing is so range dependent. Like, Dudu is so awkward to use. Also, she's really annoying, even in combat. Like, her trumpet's just like, ugh. So, while all the other healers are like in great power worth raising, and you're going to see every other healer hit great power worth raising, I'm going to put Dudu in if you're a fan because she's just so awkward. And I'm going to put her right below the bodies that do nothing. The Hella, Horo, 99, like these are the gatekeepers on whether your character is good or not. If you're above the 3 bodies, then you're doing something. If you're below these 3 bodies, then you're kind of just useless. But like, you still probably fulfill your own role in like your very niche scenario, and that's where Dudu is. Like, she's kind of useless, but she still probably fulfills her healing role or her damage buffing role. Like, you absolutely have to force it, sure. But I wouldn't. It's just so awkward to play around. I'd rather have a body than I would have Dudu. Okay, moving on to Zoya. Speaking of bodies that don't do anything. Oh boy, I'm going to upset a lot of people with this. Zoya. If you're a fan, you can force Zoya to work as a body. But that's all she is. You know, this is actually corresponding perfectly in time with the Legion's Arrival live performance that features Zoya as like the lead singer. Like, this is actually a perfect time to talk about Zoya. But Zoya doesn't do anything. Her SP cost is 40. Even when she does like get into her ult states, she has to animation cancel. She can't damage burst. It's all damage over time because she has to like wait for each and every auto attack to come out, and it's so hard to squeeze the value out of Zoya. And even when you do, it doesn't do anything. She, realistically, for every single player playing Zoya, she is a body that doesn't do anything. Just like Hella, just like Horo, just like 99. Pretty much the entire Legion, actually. Hella, Horo, 99, yeah, and Zoya. The Legion are just bodies that don't do anything. And Zoya is another one of these that are really eagerly awaiting a Reforge, and I think Zoya Reforge will allow her to be like a really competitive threat, depending on what Anzo does with it. Like Crash, there's nothing they can do with Crash. They have to like remake Crash from scratch in order for Crash to be good. Zoya just needs a little bit of love, and then Zoya can like pop off. But at the end of the day, right now, Zoya's she's not doing enough. She's just a body on the field. Okay, next up, Anne. Anne is a healer, and she is worth raising. I think she's the worst healer, like above Dudu, obviously. But I think Anne is the worst healer. She's just relying on her ultimate too much for me, and all the other healers kind of just do their thing. But hey, if you need a healer, then Anne is worth raising. She's a good healer, and nobody can take that away from her. But that's all she does. She just heals. Donald. Donald is another one of these that used to be like really, really good. You would see him on co-click teams. You would see him on even weak spot teams. And like Donald has this rare situation where he can break 4 cores. And it's very difficult to come across a center who can break 4 cores especially in like the AoE that Donald has. That being said, Angel is just better. And even then, Angel struggles to hit the AoEs that she needs to hit. And Donald needs his S1. If you don't have S1 Donald, then he's useless. Like, actually useless. Like, never bring S1 Donald anywhere. Or S0 Donald anywhere. It's just not worth it. But I mean, you can do some things with S1. He's a core breaker. He doesn't do much damage. I'm going to put him somewhere in great power. Right below Darren. I think that's fair. Maybe right above Darren. I'll put him right above Darren because even though Darren is better in like her peaks, there are more scenarios where you use Donald over Darren. But he's good. He's decent. He breaks 4 cores, and sometimes that's all you need. He's kind of like a better Gekabajin. Like if Gekabajin get this high because she breaks 4 cores, Donald is this high because he breaks 4 cores in AoE. Angel is this high because she breaks 4 cores in an AoE and does damage and supports her team and receives benefits from the strongest teams. So just pick your flavor of 4 core breakers and go with it. But ultimately there's better options than Donald if you have those options available to you. But if you like Donald, if you want to raise him, he's still worth raising. He's good. I wouldn't like yell at anybody for daring to raise Donald or anything. But I would yell at you for daring to raise Corso. Corso is awful. Corso fails to probably fulfill her own role. She's even worse than the Legion. She is not even a body. She dies fast. Her ultimate is awful. She has to move to do her damage, and even when she does move to do her damage, it's like RNG and doesn't do anything and doesn't do this and doesn't do that. Like, Corso is just... It's a really unique character design, don't get me wrong. Very unique. Very bad character design, too. This character is awful, but you know what? Still better than Christina. Still better than Christina. I hate to say it. Okay, next up is Hestia. We've talked about the burn team a little bit in regards with Thistle and Yao and even Ignis. Yan. The burn team is not strong enough right now to warrant having like a dedicated burn team associated with it. In terms of looking at Hestia, I am looking at Hestia and Thistle together. Okay, that's the real essence of what we're looking at. And in this scenario, not looking at her with Yao, okay? Looking at her separate from Yao. I have to make this very clear because it's going to look like I'm thinking of them as a combined package. But I'm not looking at them as a combined package. I am looking at these individually with Thistle, okay? Hestia is better than Yao. Hestia is a wave clear center. And if the map is really crazy and there are enemies spawning in all 4 corners and you make this team comp, you do the crit Arcana with Hestia Thistle, and that's your comp, and you have Hestia for the wave clear and you have blue for the boss damage. This comp is incredible. This is the critically burned team comp, where you do the crit and then you burn them. And critically burned is a very good team. Very good. On stages where enemies are spawning from all 4 corners and you have no other option to wave clear. Hestia does have great power. She has gotten better and better with the release of the Crit Arcana team, and she's getting better and better supports in the terms of like LL and Shen. She's getting stronger and stronger, but ultimately she's like relegated to only if you need the wave clear. Okay, you can't force her on boss stages. If you can already wave clear them with blue, then you're not going to include Hestia. Hestia is only if the enemies are so far spread out that you have to bring Hestia to clear the waves. Because Hestia will hit the entire map, while blue and like vanilla or like Angel or Raven, like they can't hit the entire map. So it's like a smaller AoE. So Hestia has infinite range. She does really well with the Arcane Crit team comp. She has very easy supports in Thistle. She's a very good character, standalone, not in the burn team. She is better outside the burn team than she is. Like this is a better Hestia team than the burn team is, okay? If you are looking for a Hestia team, use this. Do not use burn. This team is better than burn is. Crazy to say. Okay. But I had to get that out there. Not burn team, just Hestia by herself. She has great power. She's getting stronger and stronger as the stages get more and more absurd. And she's getting more and more supports that help her do her thing. Hestia does need her S1 to be effective. S0 Hestia is kind of garbage. Like, kind of trash. Like S0 Hestia is like down and worth raising somewhere. Like she's like down here. Okay, like Hestia's S0 Hestia is weak. S1 Hestia is very good. Okay, moving on. We've got Lysandra. I haven't talked about Lysandra yet. And I didn't talk about her in context of the Aurum Tech archetype because the Aurum Tech archetype does not exist. It's just Lysandra and it's just Hypatia, and Lysandra does not buff Hypatia well enough to really be considered. That being said, Hypatia has a lot of healing. She breaks 2 cores in an AoE. She has a really, really, really cheap ultimate, like absurdly cheap ultimate, and it's AoE. Lysandra is like one of the best core breakers in the game. If you have her, I think it's S4, or her ultimate cost is cheaper. It's like 1 empower to go from ult to ult. You ult, 1 empower, ult again. It's insane how many cores she breaks, how big her AoE is. Like she is. I'm about to put my foot in my mouth, but I'm going to say it anyways. Lysandra is the best core breaker in the game. It's absurd just how good Lysandra is at breaking cores. And because of that, I think Lysandra... I'm going to put her right below Thistle. Right below Thistle. Lysandra's insanely good. She's just a core breaker, but she's so damn good at breaking cores, man. And she heals, does this, she does... I should probably put her, like, down below Hecate. Because these people at least provide buffs. Like, do I really think that Lysandra's better than Moore? Like, that's hard for me to say. It's hard for me to say Lysandra's better than Moore. Oh, it's so hard. Because, like, what Lysandra is doing is very specialized compared to what these other people are doing. She's just breaking cores and she has some healing. If she gets the Aurum Tech archetype, then she's going to be joining one of these dedicated teams that are like best of the best, but she's not there yet. Sorry, I should have named this a long time ago. This is the Arcane Crit best team. Arcane Crit. But Lysandra. Oh, I want to put her next to Thistle, but Thistle's providing attack boosts, and Hecate is breaking 2 cores, providing attack boost. Moore is breaking 2 cores, providing attack boost, but nobody is doing it in an AoE as big as Lysandra's for as cheap as Lysandra's is doing. I'm putting her... Damn, I don't want to say she's better than Angel, because I don't think she's better than Angel. I'm putting her right behind Angel. I'm doing it. That's where Lysandra's going, right behind Angel. She's just so good at breaking cores. Such a cheap cost, such a good AoE. 2 core breaks. She can heal herself. She can heal Aurum Tech. If Aurum Tech gets released in the future, she's going to be even better. But right now, she's just so damn good at core breaking, dude. I can't get over it. Okay. Next up, we have a dedicated team. We are looking at the Umbra Crit archetype. Or sorry, Umbra Core archetype. Where do you guys think Umbra Core is going to go? Do you think Umbra Core is the best physical team? Do you think that it falls into great power? Or do you think it competes with the best teams? Well, the answer is, I think Umbra Core currently competes with the best teams. And it's so hard for me to pick, but I'm going to put them the second best physical team. That's right, we're putting Parfait, Graves, either you choose either Reforged by Yi or you choose Zero. I made that mistake last year, let's not making it this one. Parfait, Graves, either Reforged by Yi, Reforged only, or Zero, and then you take all of that and you throw LL onto it. Okay, I should have had another LL thing. In fact, give me 1 second. Okay, I am back. We spawned another LL in. LL absolutely goes on this team. And depending on if you're running Reforged by Yi or not, you would also include a second Yugo and a second Jelena here. This makes the tier list look really confusing. I understand that. But this team composition, this team composition is a full 6-man squad, right? But if you put in Zero, you can't run by Yi, and there's no reason to run Jelena. You can still run Yugo, But you're really picking between like 0 or Baiyi. Okay, those are your options. 0 or Baiyi. But Parfait and Graves, you absolutely run them, and then because you're running Baiyi or 0, LL is their best support, so you're absolutely going to run them. I'm going to go ahead and throw Jelena and Yugo into the tippy top of the meta used on multiple teams because they are tippy top of the meta and they are used on multiple teams. They are used on Arcane Crit and they are used on Umber Core. I will say that Yugo is actually used more than Jelena because Yugo is a little bit more generally applicable than Jelena. Like Yugo actually provides skill damage instead of just crit damage. But this team is very strong and it is better. It is better than Weak Spot. Let's go ahead and talk about Weak Spot. Bianca, we've got Sean, we've got Goland, we've got Lady Pearl, and we've got a second Lady Pearl. That's right, I also spawned in a second Lady Pearl, and that's the team. There's no reason to run Garofano on this team, and you're really just looking to fill the last slots with like Jelena to do some crit nonsense, or like Cabernet to provide some more damage, or like Shen to provide some more damage. Like you're really just looking for supports. But the Weak Spot team does struggle with core break. So they are going to need some core breaks help somewhere. Another life performance I'm going to skip it. But the Weak Spot is still very strong. It's still competing with the best teams, but it's struggling with the core break, and its reliable map-wide damage is now outclassed by another team. So while Weak Spot is still very good, I think Umber Core beats it because Umber Core does more damage, and it also has an easier time breaking cores, whereas Weak Spot has an easier time hitting the entire map. But if we're talking about hitting the entire map, what team does it better than the best physical team in the game? That's right, Return of the King. Play the Lion King song right now. We are back, baby. We are back in business. Bleed has returned to their throne. They are the best physical team in the game. There's just no comparing this, to be honest. I'm not sure if you guys have seen it, but I have seen it. This team can actually clear magical BFL. Like a max level Bleed team can beat magical BFL stages. That's how strong the Bleed team is. I can't do it because my centers are not level 90. I can't even come close to it, right? But this team's insane. It's the highest damage physical team out there. I mean, Baiyi can speedrun faster, don't get me wrong, like Baiyi teams can speedrun faster. But Bleed team is the highest damage, by far. And not in terms of speedrunning, but in terms of just like raw damage numbers on the screen, like realistic play, Bleed team is way better. I just finished clearing all the EX stages, and I was trying Umber Core, I was trying Weak Spot, I was trying Arcane Crit. I'm just getting thrashed on the new EX stages with my level 70 centers. Man, I put just like 3 members of the Bleed team. Like, I don't even have Sumeri and Pepper on there. I just have these 3, Jasmine, Drea, and Levy. And my god, the damage is just so consistent, and it's able to hit the entire map, and it's able to burst down decent threats. The core breaking is always there. Like, every single threat that comes up, I can deal with it so easily. Bleed team is just so much damage, it's so reliable, it's so tanky, it's so good. Now you are in most cases going to run all 5 units together. Like, if you don't run Sumeri and Pepper, you're losing out on a lot of damage. That being said, if you choose to leave Sumeri and Pepper behind for like a super advanced reason, like you have to be doing it for a very, very advanced reason, you have to know what you're doing, then you can do that. You can leave Sumeri and Pepper behind and still obtain really good results. But damn, the team is just so good. They clear the waves, they kill the boss, they do this, they do that, and they do it with ease. I'm so surprised at how well Jasmine by herself, just one Jasmine ult in a corner. Surprised at how well it wave clears. Surprised at how good Jasmine's like bleed extension is, because Jasmine has this passive that makes bleeds last longer, like 4 or 5 seconds longer or something like that. And like that adds up to a lot of damage when you spread that across, when you spread like 4 bleeds onto the entire map. Like having those 4 bleeds last their 4 seconds is a lot of damage, and it saved my ass in the EX stages. Like I'm not trying to be biased here, I'm just trying to explain like how good the bleed team really is. This shit's absurd. And it does everything Weak Spot does, except it core breaks too. So don't get me wrong, Weak Spot has its role still, and it still competes with bleed. And there are going to be stages where Weak Spot is better. But as a whole, bleed team and Weak Spot do the same thing, but bleed does it better. As of right now, they do the same thing, but bleed does it better. As for your 6th member, throw literally anybody up here, except for, not literally anybody, LL, Shen, Cabernet, or Infer. Just throw them into the 6th slot, or throw in a healer. You have a full, complete team. It's so good. Just stack your 5 bleeds, click Levy ult, click Jasmine ECB, and mash Drea ult over and over again. Go check out my bleed team guide. Go check out how ridiculously strong this team is. It's so good. Best team in the game. Best team in the game. Better than Arcane Crit. Okay? Best team in the game. This is the strongest Path Nowhere has ever been. And it's Return of the King, baby. The first dedicated team, the newest dedicated team, the strongest dedicated team. We are back in business, baby. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about... I do not like this song. What the heck is this song? Okay, let's talk about Rise. Rise is good. I had her pretty high in the last year list, and I don't think that was misleading, but there's a lot of competition now, and also the tiers are different. The A ranks and S ranks are mixed in the same category, and that hurts her quite a lot. I'm going to put her above Yan Yan. Rise is really good. She does a lot of damage. She can be your primary DPS in BFL. She can be a wave clear. She can do this. She can do that. She can core break. She's really flexible. She's almost like Corin, where she does everything, but unlike Corin, she doesn't do everything well. She does everything okay. So I do think Rise is worth raising, and I do think Rise is good, but I think there are better options out there. And I think Langley is slightly better because Langley's more consistent, where Rise is very like burst heavy. She likes to have all 3 swords out, then kind of like wait a second to get like 1 or 2 more swords in her like backpack, and then she wants to dance on her swords, and then she wants to throw more swords, and she's a really bursty character. She wants to do everything at the same time. It requires a lot of inputs, a lot of finger movements. It can be very difficult to play, but she's very good. The payoff is real. She's worth raising. Okay. I forgot to include these 2 in the team comp. So sorry about that. I'm completing the Arcane Crit team comp because I forgot to include Ying Ying somehow. But Ying Ying goes in this Arcane Crit team. I'm sorry that I forgot it earlier. I must have like forgotten. I don't know how I missed Ying Ying, but I did. And I also have another Jelena spawned in here, but I don't know where she's supposed to go. I think she's supposed to go over here next to Bai Yi, but I just put her up here instead. So we'll ignore like this extra spawned in Jelena because it shouldn't be here. But yeah, I forgot to put Ying Ying up here. Ying Ying's mandatory on this team. You have to run Ying Ying for it to be useful. And earlier when I said, when I was talking about Hestia, oh my god, I totally messed this up. Earlier when I was talking about Hestia, and I said like the dedicated Hestia burn team, it had to be this. It couldn't be, you can't include LL on this team. You'd have to like drop blue if you want LL to be on the team, because you have to have Ying Ying. That's my bad. I messed up. Oops. Sorry about that. Hope y'all forgive me. I forgot to put Ying Ying on this team, and I said some wrong things because I forgot to include her on the team. Oops. Also, I'm going to swap LLs because these are the same LL, and this one's different. Okay. Next up on the real list, we have Nox. Nox has recently received her Reforged, and because of that, she is very good. We are talking about the context of Reforged Nox. Okay? And for the context of Reforged Nox, Nox is at the tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams. She provides all the support that she used to provide. And she can now also break 3 cores one time. And a lot of these teams, especially like Weak Spot and like Corin teams, a lot of these physical teams can really struggle with core break. And the fact that Nox is providing 3 core break makes her very strong. She can also wave clear. She provides a lot of damage, and she provides a lot of damage amp to the entire team. Reforged Nox is very strong and is tippy top of the meta on multiple meta-defining teams. I'm going to leave her right there at the bottom because she is restricted to physical teams, and I think in the situations where Jelena and Yugo are used, Jelena and Yugo have higher highs than Nox. In fact, there is an argument for Nox to be like down here with Moore, because Nox and Moore are very similar in like how they want to support the team. But I think Nox, with the addition of her own personal damage, makes her more worthwhile than Moore. Also, Nox doesn't have like the weird positional requirements that Moore requires. So Nox is very good. I think she's tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams. Reforged Nox specifically. Regular Nox is like up here in great power somewhere. But Reforged Nox is tippy top of the meta. Okay, looking at... Oh, I forgot her name. How could I forget her name? I love this character. Oh, Airplane Girl. Zephyr. Zephyr's good. She struggles for the same reason that Rahu struggles, where all of her damage is based on her attack, and her attack stat is very low. I have a full guide on Zephyr on my channel. I recommend checking that out because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to Zephyr. So I'm not going to go into full depth here. If you want to hear more about Zephyr, go watch that video. It's too much to talk about. But for now, I'm going to say she's worth raising, and I'm going to put her above Rise. I think Zephyr's really strong, really worth raising, really good at what she does, but she is difficult to use properly, and she does get stat checked on the harder content. So it's rough. She stat checks the opponents, or they stat check her. That's the TLDR. Okay, next up, we are out of S ranks. Ying Ying was our last S rank, huh? Look at that. Let's go ahead and work through the others. Victoria is also worth raising. Victoria used to be one of the best mages in the game. In fact, I have like several videos on my channel where Victoria was my primary DPS. If you want to see like Victoria popping off, I have all sorts of clears where Victoria was my primary DPS and absolutely like ripped the stage apart. She can be your DPS unit on the Arcane Crit team. Like you can throw Victoria in over like blue or with blue or something like that. Victoria's very good. But she doesn't core break. She's power crept by blue. She hurts herself. She has like some odd restrictions. She has like a strange range requirement. There's a lot of places where Victoria does start to struggle. And because of that, she is being left in the worth raising tier. I think... I want to say she's better than... No, I think it's better. I think the core breaks. I'm going to say she's better than Zephyr, but still in the worth raising category. She needs her S2, I think it is. Like if you have an S0 Victoria, don't run her. S2, I think, is the magical breakpoint. Whichever one like removes the restriction on her thorns. But very good character, very very strong. Cassia, oh Cassia, you are still like the golden child who has not received any favoritism. You are. Oh, you're so close to being good, but you're not. You have attack speed boosts, you have really cool supportive options, you can heal, you can do all sorts of weird shit, but like, even now, nobody cares. She's like Rahu's best partner, but at the same time, like, who cares if you're Rahu's best partner? She's like a really good partner for Victoria. Like, who cares if you're a really good partner for Victoria? Cassia, she's so close to being good, but I'm going to put her in worth raising next to Rahu, because they are almost close to being a dedicated team, almost. And Cassia needs better partners. There's not enough people who hurt themselves. And until we get more people who hurt themselves and more people who care about the attack speed that she provides, nobody cares about Cassia. So, eventually, someday she'll be good. But right now, she's a fear fan category. Speaking of if you're a fan, we've got Kelvin. Kelvin's really good. In fact, no, Kelvin's worth raising. Kelvin is better than Joan. No, I can't say that, because I put Ekko down here. And Kelvin does the same thing as Ekko, except better. I'm skipping this song. Oh no, this is Super Lion. No, I like this song. This is Owo's song. Okay, but Kelvin and Ekko do the same thing. They stall out some EX stages, some story stages. They just keep the enemies stuck at their spawn and say, hey, you don't get to leave your spawn. Y'all are way too strong. You do way too much damage. I'm just going to stun lock you in a corner and make sure you don't get to play the game. And you'll eventually die. And it's a very strong combination if used on the right stage, specifically EX stages. If you see EX stages like immune to crowd control, it's because Kelvin is so good on those EX stages that they had to make like an immune to crowd control condition to stop Kelvin from just absolutely rolling the stage on her own. She is that good in like harder wave-based content. Okay, I'm also going to throw Lamia in there because she fits that same discussion. Lamia, I'm going to put her in the if you're a fan category. Lamia does a lot of things. Lamia had a really big fan base, and she still has a big fan base. And that fan base would talk and rave about how good Lamia was, or is. And Lamia can be that good. But the problem with Lamia is that her damage is mostly AoE. And when we're talking about the context of these stronger mages, like Victoria, or Shalom, or Blue, or Hestia, or Yao, we're talking about all these like stronger mages, like we can even talk about Hypatia. They can clear the waves themselves, and they do not need help clearing waves. Lamia is wave clear support, and also like crowd control support, which is why she goes with Ekko and Kelvin. But the fact is that like, as good as Lamia is, she's redundant with the stronger characters. Like if you're using anybody in the worth raising or great power or like best team categories, Lamia is redundant with those characters. She does not help those characters. She becomes redundant. The best characters do her job and hit the boss. And you don't need Lamia unless you really, really, really need help clearing the waves. And for some reason, for some magical reason, your magic damage characters aren't doing that same damage in AoE. Very, very niche character. More niche than her fans would like to admit. But she is good if you find that scenario where you need to like wave clear or provide consistent damage over a long period of time, where you're doing this like stun lock at the start of the stage kind of shit. But kind of overrated. Okay, Flora. Flora's if you're a fan. She's better than the Legion bodies. She's like worse than EMP. Yeah, I'm gonna put her right below EMP. She has good consistent damage, but she doesn't core break. She doesn't really do anything. She's kind of in the same boat as Priscilla, where like, sure, you do damage, but like, who cares? You don't do enough damage for anybody to really play around. Like, nobody's pairing Flora with like Lady Pearl and Jelena. I mean, you could if you really wanted to. If you're like Flora's biggest fan, Jelena, Yugo, Lady Pearl, on probably like Pine, so you get like the 3 reticle condition for Yugo, and then like just have Flora go crazy. And if Flora can go crazy, like other characters are going to go crazier. Like any situation where like you're thinking about using Flora, you would just use Corin, and you'd have better results. Flora's good, but like she's not worth playing around, and she really only does her job if she's being played around. As like a splashable DPS, she's like passable in story, but like it's nothing amazing. Dolly is getting a Reforge, got a Reforge, one of the two. Reforged somewhere in there. I don't know shit about our Reforge. I can't help you there. But base Dolly is a body. Like I'm gonna say that she's a worse body than Zoya. I'm talking about base Dolly. I don't know anything about her Reforge. Don't come at me with her Reforge stuff. I don't have a clue. But base Dolly, she's a body who kind of like swings at things the same way that Zoya's a body that swings at things. Dolly's more consistent. Zoya does more damage. I'm not even sure if Zoya does more damage, honestly. Like Dolly's probably doing more damage. I know Dolly got used in like early Dark Zone because again we didn't have that many options. We were still using Mess at that point. Like Mess was seeing play in early Dark Zone. like season 0 and 1, like before Darren came out. And Dolly was actually used in Dark Zone as like a primary damage dealer, and she was doing really well. But I don't know. Times haven't been kind to her, and she's kind of struggling. In fact, I'm gonna move Dudu down here because I think Mess is a body that does nothing along with all these others. I think it's better just to keep the bodies that do nothing all together. So if you guys are confused about this song, this is Ying Ying song. So don't yell at me for the anime kawaii. This is Ying Ying song. You can yell Ying Ying. Okay, next up we have Wolverine. Wolverine was also seeing some play in early Dark Zone. It was only one season when Reticles ignored defense, and Wolverine had this really cool trick where he could throw all of his traps on the boss, and all 9 traps would hit the boss if the boss was big enough. And it was a pretty decent burst damage option. But it was before we had like all the supports, before we had like the support meta, back when we had to run like 4 DPS units because that's all we had. And even then it was only good because he was ignoring defense. I think Wolverine is alright. I'm going to say he's worse than Flora. The traps are good, the CC's okay, the range is okay. Everything he does is okay, but he's not doing anything special. He's just kind of neat. So that's my Wolverine review. He's kind of neat, I guess. Okay, let's go back to talk about some Enduras. Oonie is an Endura who blocks 2. She can make people immune to damage for 3 hits, but like, you don't really care. It's better just to give somebody shields, because they'll probably take more than 3 hits with the shield. So Oonie has a worse shield than the others. Also, she doesn't have like as many synergies as like shield content. Sometimes every like blue moon, we'll get like shields do this kind of buff for, I don't know, BFL or Mania training or Eternal Nightmare or something, where like shields are really valuable. And Oonie's shields aren't the same as everybody else's shields. So Oonie's shields are not as good as regular shields, and that's where I'm putting her, like below all the regular shield units. Then we have, I forget her name, the real estate agent. I'm not even going to try to remember her name. She is an Endura who blocks 2 and occasionally stuns units. And the stuns are okay. They're nothing to write home about. The problem with the stuns is that, like, if you're stunning something, it's probably not that strong. And if there is a strong unit that comes at you, it's probably immune to stuns. So, like, what are you really stunning is the question. And I think it's good. I think she can lock down certain targets. I'm going to put her, like, right behind Christina, because there are going to be, like, some niche pop-off moments where, like, stunning a target and, like, keeping it stunned will absolutely save your ass. But I think just having, like, the niche option of, like, is stunning something better than having Chelsea's, like, very weird fringe tank moments? I think Chelsea's very weird fringe tank moments are better than her very fringe stun moments. So it's what sort of fringe tank do you want? They're fringely useful, but they're both useful. Okay, Peggy. Peggy is just a worse KK. I mean, there's not much to talk about. She's an Endura who blocks 2. If you're a big Peggy fan, then you can run Peggy. But at the end of the day, she's an Endura who blocks 2, and she can be easily replaced by any other Endura who blocks 2. Okay, moving on to Demolia. Demolia is probably the most efficient in terms of, like, resources. Most efficient Endura who blocks 2. So I'm going to put her pretty high in the Endura who blocks 2 little band here. But at the end of the day, she's an Endura who blocks 2. She's cheap to raise. She's kind of tanky, but she doesn't have any sauce. The people above her have some sauce that makes them unique. The people below her are probably better Enduras, but she's more efficient. Like, do you really care if Kawakawa is 3% better than Demolia when Demolia is like 50% cheaper to raise? Probably not. Demolia is like your starter Endura. She'll eventually get replaced, but she's really efficient to raise and use, especially in the early parts of the game. Okay, now we have Eureka. Eureka's bad. Forgot who I compared her to last time, but it was a really accurate comparison. It was another trap-based character. Oh, it was Shrooma. So let's talk about Shrooma and Eureka combined, because Shrooma has insane damage. And we've seen her also clear Broken Frontline Magical as a physical damage character. I've never showcased her on my channel because she's really, really, really strange to use. She's really awkward. But Shrooma's very good. She's very specific. She does very specific things. She's like a Tide of Ashes monster too. Like, very strong character. Very gimmicky. She has great power. But I'm going to put her pretty low in the great power just because of how gimmicky she is. But if you know how to use her, then she's like up here somewhere in like the best team's contention. She's a very strong character who does some pretty ridiculous things. And if you like Shrooma, I recommend looking up some Shrooma guides. Not from me, because I don't do that. I'm not a Shrooma guy myself. But Shrooma does have like some really insane performances across multiple game modes. She's a very strong character. Eureka, on the other hand, wants to be Shrooma, but is not Shrooma. Eureka struggles. I'm gonna put her like right above Hella. At least she does something. But I don't know. Eureka just, any situation where like I want to use a Eureka, just use Shrooma. There's not really much more to say than that. Okay, let's go ahead and finally break the bubble with Oliver. I hate Oliver. He does stuff, but I don't like him. I don't like his personality. I don't like his character. I don't like his character model. I don't like his kit. I don't like him. He core breaks. He does some stuff. He like has a debuff or some crap like that. I don't like him. He's at the very bottom of the tier list, and he will forever remain the very bottom of my tier list in every single tier list that I ever make, unless they somehow make a character more infuriating and more useless than Oliver. Okay, and if you're an Oliver fan, just go ahead and downvote the video, okay? If there's any downvotes on my videos, because it's Oliver fans, all right? And they just want to see the world burn, all right? That's what it is. Also, be sure to like and subscribe. Y'all have been here long enough. Go ahead and click the buttons. Haha. All right, next up, the Queen. The Queen has some sauce right up there with Vanilla. Max damage, a character that does damage based off of max HP. And there's a lot of people who would say like, oh, McQueen is just as good as Vanilla because they do literally the exact same thing. Well, that's only kind of true, because Vanilla will receive buffs from like LL and Infer and all these other bonuses. Whereas with McQueen, you can't provide those bonuses. You can only copy the base tank of Vanilla. And because it's so difficult to buff McQueen, and because Vanilla is just better, I'm going to put McQueen lower. I think she's still worth raising, and I'm going to put her right behind Dove. Phenomenal character that does damage based off of max HP, and she can also copy your Endura and make them do damage based off your Endura's max HP. It's a very strong character with a very large 2 core break, very strong character. It used to be like super meta. It used to be like great powers, borderline unrivaled power. But I don't know, for the same reasons that Vanilla has fallen off, McQueen has fallen off. There's cheaper core breakers, there's better damage dealers. You don't really need the pseudo tank anymore. There's a bunch of things that have happened that reduced McQueen's value, but she's still very, very good and absolutely worth raising. Very good character. If you're looking for like a cheap core breaker who does like absurd damage, yeah, pair McQueen with your favorite Endura and go to town. You'll be impressed by how good McQueen really is. Okay, next up we have Lisa. Lisa is the premier of this stall comp. Lisa, Lamia, Kelvin, Ekko. This is the stall comp. We are going to... I'm going to skip the song. We are going to beat this EX stage by making sure they never leave the spawn points. This is the team. And if you are struggling with some sort of wave-based content and they're like getting to you too fast and you can't block them, they do too much damage or some other crap, like this is the team to do it. Lisa's the best at doing it. That's all she does. She just stops them from moving. And in most scenarios, you're not really running this very specific stall comp. But if you are running this very specific stall comp, Lisa's very good. If you're a fan category. Used to have her in worth raising. Tier list has changed. Values have changed, etc., etc. Woohoo Hanzi. Woohoo Hanzi is strong enough to fit on this dedicated arcane Arcane Crit Team, although she would replace Voltaire Blue, not be used with Voltaire Blue. Woohoo Hanzi is a good damage dealer, and I think she has great power. I'm going to put her below Shrooma, below Etti, or below Reforged Etti. But Woohoo Hanzi is very good. She has great power. She does her job very well. It's just that her AoE is much smaller than her competition's. Like, I mean, her competition is blue, so like, it's pretty high competition. And I'm specifically putting her here. Like, standalone Woohoo Hanzi, do I think a standalone Woohoo Hanzi is better than a standalone 11? No. I think 11 is stronger standalone. But Woohoo Hanzi fits better into the Arcane Crit team than 11 does. Woohoo Hanzi can spam better, she can do... She works better with LL, like, Woohoo Hanzi has some sauce, okay? But she kind of requires the support that the Arcane Crit team provides. And in the context of being able to be put on the Arcane Crit team, Woohoo Hanzi is very good. But again, she does have the problems of small AoE, and like RNG, and like she has her own problems. But in terms of just raw damage numbers being thrown at the screen with a single core break, very, very good character, very strong. Okay, next up we have Letta. Letta is an AoE healer. She has great power because of that. That's it. Letta is an AoE healer with great power. Congratulations. You need one healer. Letta's a good healer. Next, Labyrinth. Labyrinth is tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams. I'm going to put her at the bottom of the tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams because even though Lappy is the best core breaker in the game, she is the only one who can break an infinite number of cores. Actually, no, Pine can do it too, but for different reasons. I'm still gonna run with that assumption. Even though Labyrinth is the only one who can break an infinite amount of cores, at the end of the day, who cares? If you need to break an infinite amount of cores, Labby is your best and only option. But on so many teams, there's so many other things you could do, and you really only bring Labyrinth if you have to. That being said, there's a lot of accounts, there's a lot of rosters, there's a lot of people who feel like they have to bring Labyrinth to break all the cores. And if that's what you have to do, then she is tippy top of the meta used on your meta-defining teams. She's great. But if you do have problems with core breaking, if you're like early on in the story, or your roster is like underdeveloped, and you like need a core breaker, Labyrinth is your best option that's going to stick around forever. But if you're running like these more hardcore dedicated teams like Bleed, like there's no reason for you to throw Labyrinth into the Bleed team. That's just not going to happen. Like, you have enough core break here. You need like more damage, like Cabernet or some shit, right? And like, you're not gonna... I mean, I guess you could throw Labyrinth into the weak spot team, because the weak spot team does struggle with core break. It would work. It would work great. But at the end of the day, there's like other core breakers who are going to provide the same amount of utility while also providing damage. So at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, like, Labyrinth is easy, but the other options are better in terms of like how much they support the team. Labyrinth is still the best core breaker, but the others help the team more than just Labyrinth does. Labyrinth used to also be a giga damage dealer. Damage is falling off more and more every season, and it's starting to become a struggle for her to keep up. But never going to replace her because she breaks an infinite number of cores, and you can't ever replace Labyrinth. Okay, Ariel. Ariel is an AoE healer, and AoE healers go into great power. Her Reforged is insane. She does great. She's a good healer. Use her if you have her. She's great. Live performance. You know what? I'll let this live performance play out. Why not? Yeah, Ariel's great. AoE healers, AoE heal. Good shit. Chay. Chay is a core breaker that used to... Okay, I'm skipping the song, actually. Okay, hold on. I'm getting out of the live performance section of this song. Okay, there we go. We're back to Hestia. Looking at Chay. Chay is a core breaker who has utterly been power crept by Lissandra. Lissandra is just everything that Chay used to be and more. Chay is really just a core breaker in a large AoE. He breaks 2 cores. He provides like the smallest amount of damage buff. It's not worth considering. There's so many people who talk about, oh, Chay's great on the Bleed team because he provides a damage buff. His damage buff is non-existent. Don't play around it. It's awful. But Chay is a 2 core breaker in this enormous AoE, and that makes him worth raising. I don't think he's great power, not anymore. I mean, there's so much competition down here in worth raising now. There's so many people who are worth raising. And I think that he's better than Joan. I think that's fair to say. Okay, next up we have Thalia. Thalia is really good. I'm impressed by Thalia. I don't think she has great power, but she's a very consistent reticle who has some sauce. She has like slow, she has damage buffs. She's actually really good. I know she's better than Rise. I think she's better than Langley. Yeah, I'm gonna put her right above Langley. I think she's better than Langley. Langley has some sauce, but Thalia has like some supportive sauce, and I think the supportive sauce goes further than Langley's damage sauce does. So Thalia's really good. If you like Thalia, hey, hats off. That's a good character right there. Last but not least, we have Luvia Ray. This used to be like a fan favorite. This is a really strong character. She does a lot of things. The problem that she has is the same thing that Lamia has. In fact, Lamia and Luvia Ray are best friends. They work perfectly together. Luvia does all the boss damage. Lamia does all the wave damage. They actually are the only two that make the electrocute mechanic mean anything, and they are very good if used together. If you don't have any other option, these two are great. That being said, Luvia struggles with the same problems that Lamia does, where if you have like these stronger mages, like even Hypatia, especially if you're looking at like 11 or Hestia or Yao or Blue or Wuhanzi, like they're clearing the waves and doing boss damage at the same time. And Luvia can only do boss damage, and even then she has to animation cancel for it. It's a lot of hoops to jump through. And I still think she's worth raising, but she's not in great power or anything like so many people from the early days, like Season 0, Season 1, Season 2, even like Season 5 of Dark Zone. People are still raving about how strong Luvia is. And like, again, she used to have like super dedicated teams with like Luvia, Lamia, and Serpent. Like Serpent and Luvia have like the same animation cancel time. So like, if you wanted to animation cancel Serpent, Luvia and Serpent would animation cancel each other at the same time. It was great. But just like Serpent's fallen off, Luvia's really fallen off. And she's just in worth raising now. She's not Giga-busted or anything anymore. Okay. And that is the full tier list. We have the if you're a fan category bloated with a lot of A and B ranks and a lot of Enduras. And we have, the occasional S rank thrown in here, like Rahu, unfortunately. Rahu, Reforged win, please. Same thing with you, Zoya. Zoya, Reforged win, please. Down here, we also have some options. Note that Pilgia does have some sauce if you pair her with very specific teammates and like higher shackles and higher ECBs, but ultimately she fails to fulfill her own role on her own standalone. And then at the higher we go, we have some meta-defining teams like Bleed, Arcane Crit, Umber Core, and Weak Spot. We are currently struggling on the magic damage side of things in terms of like the current meta game. Magic damage is in like a rough spot, and kind of struggle with some options right now. But we do have a lot of Sinners who are featured on every single team, including the upcoming Sinner Shen. I include Shen here because she is Cabernet and Hamill rolled into one package and made stronger. So if you like Hamill, if you like Cabernet, you're going to love Shen. She does both of their jobs, but better. And the rest of these tippy top of the meta used on multiple meta-defining teams, they're just absolutely broken. If you have one of those characters, you're probably just popping off no matter what. I mean, especially LL. I mean, look at LL. LL's here, she's here, and honestly, LL is also down here. I mean, like LL is the best support on the Bleed team. So like LL is literally everywhere. LL is like the best character in the game, bar none. Like nobody even comes close to how good LL is. LL is insane. But yeah, that's the team. That's the tier list. Check out my channel if you want to see Bleed team guides or Arcane Crit guides or Umber Core guides. I don't have a weak spot guide, but most of these I also have guides for. Most of them, Corin and Hestia. I think I have a Hestia one. Yeah, lots of guides if you guys are wanting a deeper dive into some of these other characters. But this is the tier list in the current day in 2025. Right before the 3rd anniversary, right when we got the first wave of Reforges. So, let me know what you guys think. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.